Okay. Welcome, everybody. I want to call this session of the meeting to order. We just finished a closed session, so thank you for your patience. Mr. Z, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me in honoring our flag and country. Put your hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Mr. Z. Sorry about that. Thank you guys again very much. I'd like to make a announcement that we make every meeting. Welcome to our meeting tonight. Thank you for taking the time to join us, especially as you waited for our closed session. As you know, California reopened the economy on June 15th and eased the restrictions that have been placed during COVID. However, the California Department of Public Health has stated that masks are required for everyone indoors in K-12 schools and other youth settings, regardless of vaccine status. We anticipate further updates for the 21-22 school year from the CDPH and CDC. It's important that you understand that public schools do have to follow the guidelines from California, the Department of Public Health. We hope to have further guidelines in a few weeks. They're continually updating these, so hopefully we'll have some updates soon. In the meantime, we continue to follow the same safety practices as our schools, requiring that anyone attending our school board meeting wear a face mask. Face masks must be worn properly at all times, even when addressing the board during public comment. Face masks should cover the mouth and nose. Persons not wearing proper face coverings indoors pose a risk to others. Anyone who refuses to properly wear a face mask will be escorted out of the meeting. Thank you very much for understanding. All right. I'd like to announce action taken in closed session. In closed session by a unanimous vote, the board took action to approve the appointment of Eric Rivera Molina, elementary school principal, Vicentia Elementary. The appointment effective date is to be determined.
All right. It's my pleasure, President Pollock and board, to introduce Eric Rivera, who comes to us most recently from Paris Elementary. He's been a long-serving principal there, and we are excited to welcome him back home as a graduate of Corona High School. He's well acquainted with the district, so congratulations, Eric.
With me, I brought my niece. This is Yvette, and a friend of mine, Dr. Byrne, but I think she might be busy.
Oh, right.
But I'm so excited to be part of Corona and be part of the family. It's a good homecoming. Thank you so much.
Hey, congratulations. Nice to meet you.
Congratulations and welcome back. Welcome home.
So much.
Also, in closed session by a unanimous vote, the board also took action to approve the following management reclassifications. John Pablo Sanchez, Dr. Sanchez, to Administrative Director, Education Services. Dr. Shelley Yarborough, to Director, Educational Services. Dr. Pruitt, to Coordinator, Educational Services. To High School Assistant Principal, location to be determined. Lori Clays, to K-8 School Principal, Chavez Academy. Dr. Christy Martinez, to elementary school assistant principal, Wilson Elementary School. Deborah Perry to elementary school assistant principal, Vandermolen Fundamental Elementary School. And Myra Orozco to elementary school assistant principal, Norco and Stallings Elementary Schools. The dates of these reclassifications is July 1st, 2021. Mr. Gonzalez?
Thank you again, President Pollock. So we have 8 reclassifications. We know there's quite a few family members, and you know when administrators come into the district, everybody in the family is part of the family. So we always like to take this opportunity to recognize you in the meeting and introduce those who support you. So when I call your name, if you wouldn't mind just stepping forward a little bit, and we'll have you introduce who's come to support you. We have Peter Lum, who's been a successful coordinator and will be a high school assistant principal. Congratulations, Peter.
My wife is watching on the Zoom. She had
Wave
class
to her.
tonight, so she wasn't able to make it.
Excellent.
But, on the camera. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Congratulations, Peter. And we have Pablo Sanchez. All right, who will be taking on administrative director duties.
Thank you very much. I want to introduce my wife, Karen, my oldest son, JP, and my youngest, Noah. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Good. All right, and we have Dr. Ginger Pruitt, who will be taking over the role of coordinator in Ed Services.
And my family couldn't make it tonight either, but my mom is Zooming, and my husband Jason, and my son Jackson. But of course, CNUSD is my family, so
Hey.
I'm just excited to.
Hey, congratulations, Ginger. And next we have Lori Clays, who will be taking on the principalship at the K-8 Academy of Chavez Academy.
I just want to thank my family who's at home. They're also YouTubing, and I am honored to have this position. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. And Shelley Yarbrough. There's Shelley, who has been the principal at El Cerrito for us, will be taking on the Director of Ed Services position.
Thank you.
Hey.
I have my son Jason and my father Fred,
Hey.
and they are huge support.
Shelley, before you leave, could you introduce what your dad did when he was a little bit younger?
My father is a veteran of the United States Air Force, and that experience in the Air Force, I think, gave us a good background. It allowed us to accomplish what we've been able to accomplish.
Hey. Good. Next, I'd like to introduce our new administrators. We have 3 elementary assistant principals. The first, Dr. Christy Martinez, who will be is coming from Vandermolen and will be going to Wilson as the assistant principal.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity.
I'm here with my husband Roy, my youngest daughter Ava, my oldest daughter Liliana, and my goddaughter Bella.
And we have Mrs. Deborah Perry, who will be the new elementary assistant principal at Vandermolen Elementary. Hey, congratulations. And last but not least, we have Myra Orozco, who's currently a TSA with us, but she's going to be taking over the assistant principal duties at Norco Elementary and Stallings.
You all, with me today, I brought a whole entourage. My husband, Alejandro, my 3 kids, Noel, the little one, Adrian, and Diego, I brought my mom and my dad because I wouldn't be here without them. And then my colleagues in the back that I work with every day. My very good friends, my neighbor Millie and Caesar and their kids. And my boss is out there somewhere, Carlos. So I know they're supporting me. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, President Pollock. That concludes our appointments for this evening.
Congratulations, everyone, and we look forward to an exciting, more normal 21-22. So thank you, guys. All right. Next, adoption of minutes. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the minutes of May 4th regular business meeting? Second? Okay, a first and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Okay, 5-0, it passes. Okay, next, do I have a motion and a second to adopt the minutes of the May 18th board study session?
So moved.
Okay, okay, John and Mary. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Okay, passes 5-0. All right, we're going to do some special recognition. I'm going to start here. I would like to read this. At this time, we would like to acknowledge a very special member of our executive cabinet, Mr. Alan Giles. Mr. Giles, would you please stand? Mr. Giles has served as a district assistant superintendent of business services for the past 5 years. Tonight is his last board meeting. On behalf of the Board of Education and Executive Cabinet, we would like to thank Mr. Giles for his services and the fine job he has done for CNUSD. He came and conquered during some very difficult, tumultuous times, and all I could say is personally, I have great respect and I thank you so much for what you did. We want to congratulate you and wish you a fantastic retirement. There's some blue and gold paraphernalia for you to try and transform you from that USC Cardinal and gold. But anyway, we want to thank you very much. I'll open it up if anybody wants to comment.
Alan, I've only been here 3 years, but you have been a tremendous help to me to understand your position and how important it is that we keep our books clean, that we keep our books accurate, and that we are honest with our community on how our monies are spent. I really thank you for that. And I also enjoy going to the ball games with you, a lot of fun. And so with that, enjoy your family. It's time. So we'll see you soon. On the silent.
All right. Dr.
Well,
Wallace.
I know Alan Giles for years as a faculty at the University of Redlands. And one evening, he just showed up as our assistant superintendent. I was so surprised. Wonderful. And so you did an excellent job, and I congratulate you for your retirement. Have fun. Thank you.
Yes.
Just want to thank you for you brought us through some tumultuous times and put us in the direction that we needed to be going, and it made it so we had more checks and balances as we obviously needed. So appreciate that, and you really jumped in both feet. So appreciate all your work and enjoy retirement, my friend.
Thank you, Ellen, for helping us out. Like John said, in a time when it was pretty bad. Thank you. Enjoy your retirement.
I'll give you that one. Thank you. Okay, some more special recognitions. Miss Judy now.
Good evening, President Pollack and Board. I'm excited because we have lots of special recognitions this evening. So we are going to jump in and get started. It is my proud honor to bring to you at this time before the board the 2021 CIF-SS Division I Girls Dual Wrestling Champions from Corona High School. I'm going to be turning the mic over quickly to the Corona team, beginning with the principal of the school, Mr. Ben Sanchez. But I would also like to bring up Avita Tapio Gonzalez is going to assist us with some certificates. And we have with us this evening, also joining the recognition, Mayor Jackie Casillas of Corona. So perhaps she could come up at this time too. And here is Principal Sanchez.
Thank you to Mrs. Now, Board President Mr. Pollack, Board Vice President Mrs. Marroquin, Board members Ms. Ibarra, Mr. Zicafus, and Dr. Lawless, Superintendent Dr. Buenrostro, and all of the members of the Cabinet. It's an honor to be here tonight to celebrate our 2021 CIF Southern Section Championship Girls Wrestling Team. In the 125-year history of Corona High School, I'm sure there have been some dominant sports teams, but perhaps this team is the most dominant of them all. They dominated each match leading up to the playoffs and dominated each playoff match leading up to the finals. And for those of you that were there, what an exciting night that was. Went down to the final match of the night, and we came out victorious. Mr. Pollack, who's a alumni of the school, regaled us with some stories of his wrestling championship. And we all had a great time.
A long time ago.
Thank you to Assistant Principal of Athletics, Mr. Jeff Stevens, for his support of the team, and to Coach Bowers for his commitment to building a championship team. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Stevens to talk about the team and Coach Bowers.
Good evening, Board. It's my pleasure here to present to you today our 2021 Girls CIF Championship team. These girls, some of them I've known for 4 years, some of them just this year. Coach Bowers probably puts in more time and effort than a lot of our coaches on campus. But we would not be standing here today without the help of you five up here and everybody else in this room that made it possible to get us out as early as possible and get us back out on the field to play. And this is the fruits of your hard work to get these ladies back out here. So I can't thank you guys enough for all that. So again, thank you and congratulations, ladies. I'd like to bring up Coach Bowers.
Good evening. I'm going to try to make this quick so I don't get all teary-eyed in front of my girls because I train them to be tough. So I'm going to try to keep that standard. But this was a very challenging year for us, right? And the ones you see in front of you right here, the ones that stuck it out, you know, we usually come 40 plus strong on our team. And this year we lost, you know, almost half our girls. Through the trying area. So these girls stood strong, helped each other. And yeah, like Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Stevens were saying, yeah, they went out and they did what they were supposed to do. They dominated everybody. We were 11-0 this year. We outscored our opponents. We scored 707 points to their 95. Okay, and then some of those points, I'll be honest with you, we just gave them because we knew that we were what we had to do. But we represented, and I do appreciate many of you that came to watch us at our duels. We try to represent not just Corona High, but our district in the most positive way. Win or lose, the individual matches, I'll tell you right now, there's so much passion with these girls. And, like I tell everybody, they made me look good. I give them the tools, I give them the training, and yeah, I'm super tough on them, but they went out there and did the work. And, I'm just super glad that I'm tired of being the bridesmaid. I have enough CIF runner-ups and even a state runner-up. But this championship, this team, I compare them to our state runner-up team, which was very good back in 2018. But this team by far was probably the best, strongest, most dedicated team that we've had. And
another thing that you're very proud of is that these girls there's several of them, and can you tell me who has got a full ride because of the wrestling?
yes, we actually have 5 girls that signed to go to college. 3 of them going to Tiffin University. That's Niall Jernigan, where's she at? Juliana Matoya, and then Solana Matola that couldn't be here today. We have 5 girls that couldn't be here. And then we have Momo Dow, Mariah Dow. She's going to Linwood University. And then we have Macy, that's not here also. She's going to Midlands University. And actually, Macy and Niall got double scholarship because Niall is going for singing and wrestling. And Macy, if any of you have seen her, she's pretty built. She's going for powerlifting and wrestling. But like I said, these girls know I love to brag about them all the time. You see our social media, I put them out there. They made this season exciting for everybody, and they deserve every bit of this championship. So I want to thank you guys. I want to, before I hand over the mic, I want to bring one of our captains up, Mariah Dow. She likes to talk, so I'm going to bring her up here.
Just on behalf of the team, we want to thank you guys for so much of your support, because I know I saw a couple of familiar faces at the finals. We do put in a lot of hard work. It was very tough at the beginning of COVID, but we are super proud to represent this district and just being Corona Lady Panthers,
I'll tell you that last match, I needed to see my doctor afterward because you came from behind it. And the interesting thing, being a former wrestler, and I appreciate this so much by all the wrestlers and coaches, that it looks like an individual sport, and it really is. However, the way you make this a team sport and root for each other and cheer each other on, and the strategy, which I know you had for this match, was just a blessing to see. And again, I know Mary wants to talk as well, but what you guys did for us in the district during such hard times, you persevered, and Mr. Stevens didn't mention what the ADs did, and Mr. Sanchez what the admin did to really support you guys. And so I just want to thank you personally, because you really helped us and motivated us during really difficult times, and it was so great to cheer you on. And that last match, Northview is a perennial powerhouse in Southern California in wrestling, both boys and girls, and you guys did a great job. So it was great to watch. Now you guys are the perennial powerhouse, and you have been, but you're CIF D1 champs. That is awesome.
I want to thank you ladies too for what you've done. I didn't know that arms could twist that way. And I was a physical therapist. That was amazing to just see you look like noodles on that mat. You girls were amazing. You make us very proud. And I just want everybody to know they will be in the 4th of July parade in Corona. We are going to cheer them on. And I want to thank Mayor Casillas, because Mayor Casillas is an alum of Corona High School. So she made it possible for you ladies to be in the parade. even if we were a little late getting it in. But
All right, board president, board members, it just feels, gosh, it feels so good to be in the presence of these dominating Lady Panthers. And so I'm just so excited as a former athlete here in CNUSD just to be here with you all and to recognize this incredible accomplishment. At this time, I'd like to pass the mic over to Honorable Mayor Jackie Casillas from the City of Corona, who will be presenting certificates of recognition to our Lady Panthers.
Thank you. Well, I can say that as a former Panther, I am so proud. And as your mayor, I'm incredibly proud. I'm doubly proud to be here and recognize all that you've worked for, your passion, your dedication, your teamwork. And these are all virtues that are going to carry for the rest of your life. You know, your passion, your dedication, and your teamwork are things that you're going to need as you move on from here and you continue, you know, in sports or as you go on to college and as you join the professional world. So I'm just so incredibly proud. Thank you for making the City of Corona so proud. On behalf of myself, my colleagues on the City Council, we just wanted to recognize you with a certificate from the city for your achievement, and we so look forward to seeing you on the 4th of July parade. So I have a few, and they're not necessarily in order, but we'll call you up, and then we can go from there. So first up, Macy Avila. Oh, she's not here? Okay. That's for Macy. Please tell her I said hi. Viviana Avilas. Isabel Holly. Lindsay Medina. Not here? All right, we'll say hi to her for us too.
Just so you know, because we've been practicing so long, as soon as our season ended, they all went on vacation.
I get it. I get it. I can't wait till City Hall goes dark in the second week of August. I'm doing the same thing. Alexandra Mogoyan. Jocelyn Ortiz. Not here. Okay, that's all right. We're going to join her on vacation. Jennifer Sanchez. Sophia Zika. We've got one more for you from CNUSD. Juliana Montoya. Berenice Chihuahua. Leanne Tran. Brooklyn Kerr. Destiny Noriega. Savannah Melancon. And then we have some for, oh wait, Niall Jernigan. Mariah Dow. Solana Motola. All right, and now we have some for our coaches. Head coach Jim Bowers. And we have Coach Michael Ochoa. Okay. Coach Sean Ferguson. And lastly, Coach Christy Sandes. Thank you again. We're so proud of you. Just want to wish you the best as you go forward, and thank you for making Corona proud.
So, if we could get some athletes and coaches and the honorable mayor up here, let's get some pictures.
Yeah, if we can fit, or if the girls want to line up in front of the podium, that works too.
Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Stevens.
How about behind the board? Behind the board?
Everybody, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeehaw, ladies! Okay, we're good. Yay! Good job, ladies! Gracias.
Okay, just wanted to let you know, Board, that we do have some other state champions. So in the month of July, we'll be bringing the Centennial boys and girls basketball teams, as well as Norco High lacrosse CIF champions. So we'll be bringing some more teams. We are going to move on now to some academic winners. At this time of the year, we wait for our national and state competitions to be over. And so we are going to be recognizing students who competed all the way at the state level and beyond for several. And we're going to begin with History Day competition. And I want to actually read the title of their projects, because just the title alone shows how impressive some of the work and that the students put behind their projects. History Day every year has a theme, and this year's theme was Communication and History, the Key to Understanding. And so at the state level, state champion in the category of junior group documentary. The title of the project was C is for Communication, How Sesame Street Revolutionized Children's Television and Early Education. So I'm proud to recognize these two students for their project from Barton Elementary, 6th grade, Danny Brasher and Chloe Chun. I'm going to have you just Our next student, an individual junior historical paper champion at the state level, Aiden Kim from Lincoln Elementary, 6th grade. Aiden's project was The Fake News Pioneers, How Two Men Convinced America to Overthrow the Government of Guatemala. Our next student comes from El Cerrito, 8th grade, Viviana Tang. Viviana, she won junior individual documentary, Bagoshi Akabe Na, Unbreakable Communication Using a Forbidden Language in War. And next we have from Ramirez, 8th grade, Zachary Brasher. Zachary did a junior individual documentary. He was runner-up. The title of his project was The Power of Propaganda, Communicating Misunderstanding in Mao Zedong's Four Pests Campaign. Next we have from CFIS, sorry. So I was thinking about sports here. CFIS, Corona Fundamental, Emily Shin, 7th grade. She was champion in the junior individual exhibit. Her title of her project was Propaganda Leaflets, a tool of communication shaping public opinion and division of the two Koreas. Next, from our high school winners from 10th grade from Corona High School, Aisha Rendawa. Aisha was state champion. She did a senior historical paper. It was titled Jazz Diplomacy, a dissonant message of racial harmony during the Cold War of Words. And then we have in 11th grade from Eleanor Roosevelt High School, Dimple Amitha Gardapuri. She was an individual performance runner-up, and her title, the title of her project was Communication and Imperialism, a Key and Lock. So at this time, I would like our winners for a photo op with the board. So at this time, if you could come in here and take a picture.
Great job. Ready, 1, 2, and 3.
Congratulations, History Day winners. History Day is one of my favorite events. I wasn't able, obviously, because of pandemic, to go to there. But so much research goes into it, and our teachers and our administrators, I know some are here, who put so much support with these students. So I just want to thank them as well. And parents, too, because I know it's a lot of work. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Pollack, and I think we can all agree that during this year of pandemic, just like our athletes, what an accomplishment during this past year to have persevered and still continue to participate in these very highly competitive academic competitions. So we are going to move on to science fair winners now, and we also, you'll hear some names that are familiar again. This year, from 6th grade Barton Elementary, in the area of junior behavioral social sciences, 4th place award, I'm going to call up Danny Brasher and Zachary Brasher, Ramirez, 8th grade. The title of their project was Development and Analysis of a Mood Assessment and Messaging Frequency Affect the Moods of Elementary, Middle, and High School age participants. Our next winner, placing second in the area of the category of Junior Product Science Biological from Auburndale, 7th grade, Lara Randawa. Laura's project title was Probiotic Power: How Does Yogurt Impact the Lifespan of Fruit Flies? And then we have from Corona Fundamental Intermediate School, 7th grade, Mina Shaik. She placed 3rd in the category of Junior Microbiology General, and the title of her project was Antibacterial Properties of Garlic. And next we have Alina Tareja from Ramirez, 8th grade. She received an honorable mention in the area of Junior Plant Sciences, and the title of her project was Discovering New Techniques of Generating Charge from Plants. And at our high school level of competition from Centennial, we have Ellery Ann Mariano. She received honorable mention in the Senior Environmental Engineering, and her title was Conditioning Systems by Utilizing a VFD Banking Capacitor and an Economizer to Maximize Power Efficiency. Economizer. Whew. Okay, and next we have from in 10th grade from Corona High School, Aisha Randawa. She placed 4th in the category of Senior Toxology, and the title of her project, Unmasking the Link Between Obesity and the Dust in Our Homes. And our last recognition in the area in the science fair category today is a group project, Senior Toxology. They placed 1st, both from Centennial, both in 9th grade, Loina Rizm and Ajandini Sirajan. And the title of their project is Lethal Metals, Investigating the Effects of Metallic Nanoparticles on D. magna. So we would love to have you all come before the board and for a picture moment.
One second. Ready, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. Oops, sorry.
And our talent continues. We would now like to recognize our Riverside County Spelling Bee winner and Scripps National Spelling Bee participant. And it is my honor to bring forward at this time Lara Randawa from Auburndale Intermediate School. So just a little information. As you know, there's no state spelling bee competition. The county winners have the opportunity to go directly to the Scripps National Spelling Bee. I was told that there were 209 participants this year. And so she was among an elite group of national spellers, and she made it all the way to the 5th round. And so we're very proud of you for representing Corona Norco Unified School District. And there's good news. She's only in 7th grade, so we have one more year for the opportunity.
All right, everybody, 1, 2, and 3.
And our last student recognition for this evening is we would like to bring forward a student from River Heights Intermediate School, Brooklyn Brown. And this evening, Brooklyn is being recognized because she had an article published in Leadership Magazine. And so the title of her article was Perspectives on Public Education, Successes and Challenges During the Pandemic. So we're very proud of her work and making it to publication to all the way to Leadership Magazine. That's quite an accomplishment.
Ready, 1, 2, and 3.
So now we move on to some of our amazing staff this year who were recognized as Employees of the Year and Administrators of the Year from our AXA Region 19. We're going to begin with our Corona Norco Unified School District Employees of the Year. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Tricia Thompson, Administrative Director, Special Education, Certificated Administrator. Next, we have Tracy Payne, Employee Benefits Director, Risk Management and Employee Benefits, Classified Administrator. Our High School Principal of the Year is Dr. Alexis Briel, Principal, Centennial High School. Counselor of the Year, Marlena Reyes, from Adams Elementary School. Site Support Employee of the Year, Angela Chang, Speech Language Pathologist, Reagan Elementary School. Our Confidential Employee of the Year from Human Resources, she's a Human Resources Assistant, Amanda Heighton. And our Classified Employee of the Year from Park Ridge Elementary, Community Assistant Clerk, Eunice Sanchez. And I think I'm going to go ahead and call up the AXA Region 19 Administrators of the Year. For Secondary Co-Administrator, we have Dr. Melissa Bako, Assistant Principal, Santiago High School. Our Career Technical Education Administrator, Dr. Gina Boster. She is the CTE Director in Educational Services. We have Technology Administrator of the Year, Dr. Jennifer Bourgeois, Director, Educational Services. AXA's Business Services Administrator of the Year, Dalia Gadamawa, Chief Business Officer, Business Services. And Curriculum and Instruction Administrator, Administrative Director in Educational Services, Dr. Sarah Ragusa.
Traffic control.
I can't say enough about these employees, and as I look at the winners here, the work, the hard work that they put in, I can't even begin to calculate the hours. They're just fabulous at what they do, and so congratulations. And it's photo op time.
Squeeze in. Perfect. Hold on. There we go. Ready, 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you to all our award winners tonight. This staff and administration, during this incredibly difficult year, you guys really shone, and we could see it with the awards that our students received and our scholar athletes, and we have more on the way. So I just want to thank you guys and appreciate all the hard work. All right, next we have some presentations to the board. Mr. Ben Sanchez, we have you come back. Thank you.
What a fun night, huh? Isn't that great, honoring all those great kids? Thank you. Once again, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, as well as all of our board members, Dr. Buenrosto, and all of the members of the cabinet, thank you for letting us submit our proposal to honor the late Mr. Kevin Anger, math teacher at Corona High School, for your consideration. While I truthfully did not know Mr. Anger, everyone that I have encountered at the school, including students, staff, and parents, have told me what an amazing teacher, colleague, friend, husband, and father he was. His signature high five was a daily feature at the school. He never missed a day or a period to stand outside his door and high five students as they entered his classroom. He would even high five students that weren't in his class. No matter what the weather was, he was always out there. I'd like to introduce our Assistant Principal of Activities, Julie Stivers, to share our proposal for your consideration. Mrs. Stivers.
Good evening. Apologies for the technical problems tonight. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for listening to our proposal for the High Five Hallway. A tribute to Mr. Anger, who was truly a Corona High rock star at our staff, an integral part of our Corona High family. Kevin was hired by Dr. Taylor, now the Walnut Valley Superintendent, in 2003. Dr. Taylor always spoke highly of Kevin, and at that time we were changing our culture at Corona High School, and Kevin was a perfect addition for us. Dr. Taylor's words were that he was a true leader. He had an ability to connect with everyone, including students, athletes, colleagues, and parents. He was instrumental in further developing our strong tradition of excellence at Corona High School. From the moment he joined us, he was an exceptional member at Corona High. He did many things at Corona High School. Besides just being a teacher, he was part of our staff and part of our family. He was an exemplary math teacher. He led our PLCs. For a time before he had his family and children, he was our head boys soccer coach, our link crew lead coordinator, avid teacher, and esports advisor. So he reached out to many different populations at our school in an unbelievable way. After Mr. Anger passed away on March 14th, right after the pandemic began, our staff wanted to memorialize him because he was such a part of our Panther family. We talked and many different things came up, and the idea that they landed on was the High Five Hallway. As Mr. Sanchez mentioned at the beginning, every day Mr. Anger would stand outside of his classroom and high five the students as they walked in. Sometimes he'd take a skateboard from kids that weren't supposed to have them and do other great things out there as well. But he always had a positive energy about him and had a great rapport with students and would build rapport with students that he didn't even know that were not even in his class. So the High Five Hallway was what the colleagues determined would be the best way to memorialize him at our school. This is his widow, Mrs. Gresslinger. They were a Corona High School love story. So she wasn't able to be here tonight, but this is what she wanted to share with you.
Hello, board. I'm Julie Gresslinger, speaking on behalf of my colleagues at Corona High School. When we first began brainstorming ideas of how to memorialize Kevin Inger on our campus, none of our ideas felt right. He was so full of love and energy and passion for everything that he did. He made everything fun. So a simple plaque or planting a tree, none of those things felt like him. So when we created the idea of High Five Hallway, in our hearts it felt absolutely perfect. Every student email and story and video that was sent to me, they talked about all those things about him, but the most common thing that was mentioned was his high fives. So after a year of so much distance, of so much hurt, and missing of each other and missing of everything that is a part of a high school campus, we feel this is a perfect idea to represent him and keep his spirit alive on campus, but to bring our staff and our students back together again and improve that school culture. It's so needed. Thank you for your time. Hello, board.
The mural location that we would like to propose is right outside of Mr. Anger's former classroom, which is now our aviation room. It's going to be in the L wing if approved, and the funding would come through donations from our staff and community as well. We took our idea to all of our stakeholders. It was discussed and had unanimous support at our staff meeting, our school site council, as well as our PTSA. Our hope is that we'll be able to have the wall, and as Mrs. Gresslinger said, create the positive culture, the high fives. Earlier in April this year, we had Air High Five Day. We made it COVID friendly, and a lot of the kids were very excited to participate, and they were air high fiving each other in memory of Mr. Anger. So we hope that we'll get your support, and again, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much. I personally love the idea. A simple gesture is a high five, and you know, for 15 months, sometimes not being able to do that. And I think that this is a great idea and a great tribute. So. All right, thank you guys very much. All right, I'd like next to introduce Ms. Carol Coyne.
Thank you, President Pollard and distinguished board members, Dr. Buenrostro and Cabinet. I'm happy to be here to talk to you about the 2021 administration of the California Healthy Kids Survey. So why does CNUSD conduct the California Healthy Kids Survey? The primary reason is to ensure that students are safe, drug-free, healthy, and resilient. And we know that if students come to school with a variety of health-related problems that make successful learning difficult, if not impossible. So we want to make sure that they're able to learn. And many of our grants require the California Healthy Kids Survey, and many of the local health organizations use that data to support their health programs. Okay, so this slide shows you our target samples for each grade. We administered at 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and non-T there is Orange Grove and Lee Pollard. We were able to reach our 60% target response rate at 5th, 7th, and 11th, but came a little bit short at 9th and non-traditional. So this slide, I think people will find the most surprising slide in the presentation. The blue lines there are 1920s administration. So this was before the pandemic in October. And the gold numbers are from this April and May. And you can see that more students said that they had never used alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs this year than last year. So many people thought that during the pandemic, drug use was going to explode or get higher, but actually it was reduced. Next slide, please. And you can see that although this was a more dramatic trend for cigarette use, it held through with other substances as well. Unfortunately, the trend is reversed for chronic feelings of sadness or hopelessness. So this question, we are looking for students to say no, they haven't felt chronically sad or hopeless feelings for 2 weeks or more. But the number that are saying no to that has gone down each year since 2016-17. And this is another interesting slide to me, and that was, how safe do you feel at school? You could see that our 11th grade is the sample I've chosen for you, but other grades held the same. That they felt safer when they came back in April and May at school than they did before they left in October, well, when they took it in October. And these last two slides are talking about protective factors. You can see at 7th grade there that students felt slightly more caring relationships at school in 2021 than they did in 1920, but a little less so at high school level. And next slide. And this is high expectations from adults at school. You can see that it stayed the same for 7th grade, but diminished a little bit at high school. So I think students are feeling not being in actual contact with their teachers, and that will be improved next year as people are back in the classroom and having steady contact with their teachers. Okay, and that is all I have for you.
I just want to clarify
Sure.
So the sadness scale, obviously during the pandemic there was more sadness, more hopelessness, yet the drug use declined. Is that correct? Okay.
And I would say that in the early stages of drug use, like experimentation, and students really need to have other people around to start. So it might make sense that being separated from their friends, they're less likely to initiate.
Yeah, maybe the access is a question. I think next year's data is going to be just so important when we look at, you know, some of those components that you talked about, the sadness and the drug use. And I'm glad we're having the opioid fentanyl push to help prevent that. I think that's going to be important. But it still surprises me on the drug use. I know that seeing in my office, I saw more drug use, unfortunately, that correlated with the sadness.
And we are hearing from the county that there are more opioid deaths in the county, so that's why we want to preemptively address that.
Yeah. Well, I'll be looking forward to next year's data because, again, the sadness, the drug use, and also the encouragement from teachers, because, again, teachers and staff at the schools, I really actually want to take a look at that because yeah, that in person is going to be imperative to build up our students.
Are we going to have a copy of that, of the survey? A copy?
Sure.
We'll be having.
So,
right.
Okay, sure.
The question I have is the survey broken down into demographics? Because in the past they identified LGBTQ, special ed, and all of that.
Yes.
What about this year?
Yes, they do ask demographic questions, and it can be pulled that way. We do have an LGBT. We
section.
did pull that data separately, so that can be included.
Can you please, because the last one I had years ago was 65% of our LGBTQ would like to commit suicide. So I want to know if that has changed.
Yes, the LGBT data has been useful for identifying ways that the students need extra support.
Okay.
So yes, I can
thank you.
find that for you.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate
you.
that. All right, and next our 21-22 district budget. Dahlia? There you go.
Okay, so we're going to go over our proposed budget and multi-year projections for the next school year. And basically, we have that legal requirement, as you know, that we need to take action and do a budget adoption in accordance with our Ed Code 42127. And with the timeline, we have to authorize that operating budget by June 30th. So that's why today we're taking this budget for approval to take that action by the board and then file it with the county no later than July 1. So before I go into our assumptions, just an update at the state level, they're still negotiating at the budget, so it's not yet approved and signed by the governor. So there are some negotiations going on. However, what we're going to do is go through the assumptions that we've built into the budget because we used our May revision. So that's the latest, the governor's May revision assumptions is how we built our budget. It's considerably conservative. We're hoping that after the legislation and the governor negotiate, there could be even a better outcome for the budget for additional higher revenues. But for right now, we're taking the conservative approach. So our budget assumptions for next year, we're going to use the COLA of 5.07%, which is the compounded COLA for 2021 and 21-22. And our unduplicated count is our 45%. And we do have our ADA decline projected, additional 500 ADA decline for next year, just to be conservative. And we'll be evaluating that at first interim. And then we have all our assumptions for our federal, state, and local revenues built in and all our one-time grants and so on. Down there you see an increase of 10 FTE. That's basically a net increase of 10 FTE because there's a decline of FTE due to the decline in enrollment. But because of our one-time grants, we've been adding positions temporarily for next year.
That is to reduce class size.
Yes, we have positions at the secondary level to allow for that social distancing, so we've added positions there. And then we have some decline due to enrollment in our elementary school.
Dr. Gonzalez, so inside the classroom, we're still maintaining the 3-foot distancing?
Yes, that is great. That's the guidance that we're staffing for the new year. Even if the guidance should change, obviously our staffing will carry through. Those one-time dollars are helping to support that for the 21-22 school year.
Thank you.
Okay, so these are some more assumptions for our 21-22 school year. Our step and column advancement, that's typical for every year. And then our STRS and PERS increases going into next year as well. Again, all of it part of the projections or the assumptions from the May revise. And then just our typical cost increases for transportation, routine repair, and so on. And then these are our projected revenues for next year. So you'll see, first we show 2021 estimated actuals, just that's where we predict we're going to end for the year for this current school year. And then you'll see the proposed budget by each of the revenue categories. So there are some steep declines, as you'll see. So, and that's because we received all, we have all our grant money in 2021. So the first line, LCFF, is the COLA increase, so that's going up, but the rest of it is a decrease going into next year because we've recognized the revenue in the 2021 school year, but we still have those dollars to be using for next year. But it just shows it as if we're receiving basically less revenue in 21-22 when it comes to the one time. And then this is basically the offset in the expenditures. So the same thing with the decline here at the bottom right-hand corner, the 40.2 million. That's as we built in our revenues for this year, the one-time revenues, then the expenses get carried over into next year. So we'll be reflecting the expenses coming in first interim because it'll be carryover from this year. So that's why it shows that decline.
On the books and supplies, are we going more to a digital type of resource for the books, or are we continue to buy hard copies?
I'm sorry.
So I'm looking at the cost of books and supplies, and so are we decreasing the number of hard copies we're buying versus digital access to resources online?
No, so that decline right there is because when we receive the grants, a lot of the one-time money, like our PPE and everything, is spent on that line as well. It's called books and supplies, but it's a category that includes devices, instructional materials, also our PPE, and anything we've done for all our safety guidelines. So the decline is just showing that we had spent that level in 2021, and if we don't spend it, it'll just carry over into next year. We don't build the budget again for it because it's one time.
Thank you.
And then we're required to do 2 years ahead for multi-year projections. So the 22-23, again, based on the May revision, they assume out for the following 2 years. So the COLA is at 2.48% for that year. And we're just staying conservative with our unduplicated count at 45%, but we're actually hopeful to increase those numbers as we go into the next, the following year, because we have an online funding form that we have established, and also with our meal applications after the waiver expires, we were able to collect more data on free and reduced and unduplicated count. And then another decline of 500 ADA in the following year. And then this one in 22-23, we show a decrease of 19 FTE. So again, it's just adjustments coming off of the grants. And all of that is either one-time decrease from the one-time grants or just pure attrition as we decline in our ADA. And the rest of these are just the typical adjustments that we just mentioned. Yes.
So for the PERS, I show 2023 increase of PERS. I thought we would be hitting that already before that. I thought that 21.
For the STRS?
PERS STRS, yeah, because don't we top out at 19.1?
Yeah, in 21-22, we have an increase in both, and then STRS stays at 19.1%. So there's no increase in 22-23 for now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And then for the third year out, 23-24, there's also a COLA projected at 3.11%. And then our unduplicated count is staying flat at 45% and a further decline of 500 ADA. But as I mentioned, we're going to be truing up all of that at our first interim. Actually, before first interim, I forgot to mention, we may be doing a 45-day budget revision. So it depends on when the budget is adopted at the state level. If the revenue assumptions are higher than what we have adopted in this budget, we are required to come back to you in the October timeframe for a 45-day budget revision. So we'd be coming back and reflecting what the state adopted as their budget. And then we have that further decrease of 19 FTE. Again, that's just through attrition as the decline in enrollment. And of course, we adjust that as we go depending on the ADA results. And then we have our step and column advancement and then the STRS and PERS, because we don't know that far out if there would be a STRS increase as well, because that always can change. And then our utilities increases, just our typical cost of living increases, transportation and routine maintenance too, because every year when our base goes up, then we have to contribute the 3% for the larger base of our budget. This is the multi-year projection. So you'll see here that we have on the bottom right hand corner, it shows you on the third year out that we have a positive ending fund balance. We meet our 2% reserve for economic uncertainties, and we still would remain with other assignments of 98.6 million. And that's largely due to all those one-time grants. So based on that, I mean, there's still that structural deficit. So our ongoing revenues are less than our ongoing expenses, but because we have those one-time grants, those have been helping us with our reserve levels. So based on the multi-year projection, that would give us that positive certification we would recommend at filing the budget. And then these are all our other funds. So our adult education fund is separate from the general fund, and that's with the ending balance of 1.6 million. Our child nutrition fund, we're hoping to bounce back with returning to full in-person instruction next year. So we're looking at breaking even there. And then our building fund, that's our Measure GG. And this is just based on the last issuance. We still have one more issuance in the bond. And then we have our capital facilities fund where we have our developer fees and so on. And we have an ending balance projected at 1.2 million. And then this is another one when we receive some of the state reimbursements. We have an ending balance of 2.8. Yes, Mr. Z?
Sorry, on the capital facilities fund, 1.2 just doesn't do us. I know it sounds like a huge number, but for 51 schools, that doesn't go a whole heck of a lot far. Is there, and I've always thought this has been too low, is there a way for us to beef that up? Because even as you look at the expenditures, 9.4, is there something that we can do? Because some of our schools, and Mary had alluded to this at our last meeting, and she's correct. Some of our schools are older. Some of them have benefited from, Measure G. But I don't see this carrying us through to some of the bigger projects that we're going to ultimately have to do. So my question is there a way for us to beef this up? To go out for grants or other options?
Yes. So the previous page was the building fund is the Measure GG, and we mentioned this is based on the issuances, and so we would budget the following issuance when it comes through, and then assign projects to that. And then in here, capital facilities funds includes our developer fees, but also we have pending dollars from the state level for the state reimbursements. So under Prop 51, and we did receive some notices we're getting reimbursements probably sometime soon in the next school year. So as we receive them, then we budget for projects against them. So that's why we don't show more expenditures than our fund balance. Other opportunities are usually just new developments where we're collecting developer fees, our state reimbursements, and then outside of the bond.
It's been quiet with Prop 51. COVID has taken over, the media. So we're not hearing. I know the governor had put out to sell some bonds finally, so we do get that matching back. But could we maybe get that in our board mail out? Kind of where we're at,
Yes.
what we've received back, and then our projections as well as,
Yeah.
and maybe when they'd be coming.
We
So-
actually have a status because we work with some folks at the state level, so we do have a status of what we're pending to receive. Some of them are dollar estimates, like ranges, because it's never a guarantee, but
Right.
we know what's in the queue and what's about to be received into next year, so we can send that on the board mail out.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so then, and then the self-insurance fund, that's typical for our reserves, so we have the ending fund balance of 7.1. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to also give special thanks to our director, Melissa Elwood, and her team for working tirelessly on this budget, and we hope to come back to you with a revision probably in the October timeframe once the state adopts the budget.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Dr. Lawless?
You stated there are 3 times that we're going to have a decline on ADA by 500. To what extent do those decline have an impact on our budget?
To what extent?
To what extent will it have an impact on ADA?
Budget,
Yeah.
yes. So our in the 22-23 school year will be the first school year where we're going to see the impact of this past decline, because we were held harmless for 2021, and then 21-22 we get paid on our 2021 revenue ADA. So we'll start seeing that impact in 22-23. But I know as a district we're also making a lot of efforts with growing our. It's part of our strategic plan, actually growing our enrollment with all the special programs and everything we're doing in the district. So we're hoping that this is worst case scenario, but we want to budget conservatively and hopefully we'll be able to adjust.
The impact on that. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right, next we move to our superintendent's report. Dr. Bunrostro.
Thank you, President Pollock. I'm going to ask Mrs. Tracy Payne to come up here so she can provide us an update on the COVID-19 guidance that was issued last week by Governor Newsom and his office, and then I'm going to cover a couple of other pieces. But for the interest of time, I'm going to try to keep tonight's presentation short. So, Mrs. Payne.
Thank you. Good evening, President Pollock and board members. Just wanted to give a little bit of clarification on where we are today. We have seen a lot of information out there. It's not necessarily consistent with how we operate here. So just a quick overview. We do have the economy opening. We see some new guidance regarding physical distancing and mask wearing for businesses. And then it has 2 categories for vaccinated individuals and unvaccinated. And so it's strongly encouraging that vaccination push to wear the mask. And then if you're unvaccinated, it's basically on an honor system, or sometimes businesses can ask for verification or an attestation. Specifically, it speaks to K-12 schools that were public entity, an educational facility that we are required to still follow the CDPH guidelines until CDC updates. The only update that we've seen is with the mask mandate, that it's only required now indoors through the K-12 setting, that outdoors we can have no mask. So we updated that with our Summer Boost program and our year-round. Employees can come in the parking lot now without masks, but are required to mask when entering our facility. What's to come, we also see that physical barriers will no longer be recommended. So we are planning to remove the physical barriers with the start of our new school year. We are still waiting to see what the physical distancing will look like indoors. As mentioned earlier, we still are planning for that 3 foot between students. We know that outdoors is no masking requirements, no physical distancing will go hand in hand with that. So we're anticipating lunch to be a lot easier for us if it's outdoors, but we have to plan for inclement weather. So we're still moving ahead with the full bell schedule and the full return with where we're at today. They not necessarily are in a big hurry, so we're expecting it in the next couple of weeks, but status quo regarding our current guidance with the exception of the masking outdoors. Any questions that I can answer?
So you don't, I don't know how many schools in the state are year-round. I know that we're one of the few schools, school districts. So do you anticipate any of that information before the start of our, the updates before the start of our year-round schools?
We're
Is that
hopeful.
realistic?
CDPH put out in their FAQ, put us in the same category as summer camps or day camps. So we're, and they know that we operate programs, but really they're waiting for the start of the new school year. They're working on it, so we hope that it's going to be mid-July so we can plan for our first return of our traditional schools. Our year-round schools are ready to open with the current guidelines, and we've provided them the additional lunch tables and supplies that they need with the umbrellas.
But if the decision is made, prior to our traditional return, and year-round is in there, and let's say they say, okay, no masks are needed indoors, we could automatically flip the next day. We're ready to go.
We're ready.
Okay.
So with that, like Bill was asking, if it changes right in the middle, say the first week of year-round school coming back, right now we only have a small group, right? Cohort A and cohort B. When they come back, are we still going to keep that? Or if the 3 feet go away, we're going to be able to bring all the students back into that classroom?
So we're planning the full return of our students in the classroom with that 3 feet, with the pre-pandemic bell schedule. The only area that we have an impact, as mentioned earlier, is at the secondary level. In some of our science and classrooms where the desks are fixed, so we're planning those additional classrooms and teachers to be able to bring all students back for their full day. We're no longer going to be in the cohort A or B, so the classroom will be that stable group.
I know you just said it, but I want you to say it again,
Yep.
if you could. Just full return.
Right.
Please just say it again.
Yep. Full return, full academic day, pre-pandemic bell schedule, all students together in the same classroom with that 3 foot of distancing. So we have to add additional facilities, but we've made that plan and we're ready to implement it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy. Secondly, I'd like to give kudos to our English learner director, Mr. Carlos Cruz. You know, the English learner team and site administrators have been working extremely hard during the pandemic. Our EOC contacts at the school sites, my glasses are fogging, I apologize. Our teacher leaders have worked extremely hard, as well as in reclassifying our students, and this number here is astonishing. Having been in the business for 30 plus years, we reclassified this past year 976 English learner students during the pandemic, by far surpassing county percentage rates and numbers. So I want to give Carlos and his team and under the leadership of Dr. Simon really a round of applause. This is amazing for what they've done. So let's give them a round of applause. I want to congratulate all of our award recipients, and we're going to have some more next week. And, before I transition to the last piece, which is going to be a video that highlights our graduation, I think it's appropriate. We weren't able to do it 2 weeks ago because we had the study session, but it's a good time to reflect. Because next time that we meet, it's going to be the new school year, the 21-22 school year. And board, I want to thank you for your courage, your visionary leadership, your commitment under extraordinary times for all of us this past year. And we saw a lot of the fruits of that labor today here with our students getting recognized. So thank you for your commitment to CNUSD. Really, really appreciate your leadership. So with that, I'd like to finish up with a video and also highlight our communications office for their continually producing high quality work with a high caliber staff. So thank you, Evita and staff. So if we can roll the video, please.
Great. Thank you very much. That's a great video. Great celebrations. Okay, next, our public hearings. 2 public hearings. I have some script to read, so. All right, public hearing statement. The Education Protection Account has been created through Proposition 30 and Proposition 55 and estimates to provide the district $100,841,616 in the 2021-22 school year. The district intends to utilize these funds for classroom instruction expenditures. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education regarding the 2021-22 spending plan for the Education Protection Account may do so at this time. The public hearing is now open. Okay. The public hearing is now closed, and the board will consider approving the 2021-22 spending plan for the Education Protection Account later in the meeting. All right, next, the public hearing is now open for the Corona-Norco Special Education Local Plan Area, known as SELPA. The California State Department of Education requires that all SELPAs conduct a public hearing on the 2021-22 SELPA-wide Annual Service Delivery Plan and the SELPA-wide Annual Budget Plan prior to final review and adoption by their governing boards. Copies of these plans have been available for public inspection the last 15 days. Anyone wishing to address the public of education may do so at this time. Okay, the public hearing on the 2021-22 SELPA-wide Annual Service Delivery Plan and the SELPA-wide Annual Budget Plan is now closed. The board will consider adoption of these plans later in the meeting. All right, next we move on to board members' reports. The board members will make brief reports on his or her activities not to exceed 3 minutes for each board member. We'll start with Dr. Lawless.
Okay, thank you. The first thing I would like to say is that I congratulate the wrestling team of Corona High. All my 4 kids graduated from Corona High School, so we're very proud of that. And secondly, on the History Day project, that is really a very, very significant activity in our district. All my kids participated as well in History Day. In fact, with strong encouragement from me, because you've got to know history to understand, the cliche of understanding the past, to know what's going on and to project what's going on in the future. And with what's going on in our society, you've got to understand the past. I just participated in Juneteenth last Saturday. That was my second participation in that event. And I started really learning about it, studying the 1800 history of this country. And I think we have to understand what's going on right now. If we know what happened in those proclamation and 13th Amendment, 14th and 15th, very connected to what's going on right now, including the Voting Rights Act. So I congratulate our our kids, for our CNUSD kids, for excelling in this particular event of that. The third one I want to share is that, I'm interested to know how we're able to reclassify our EL during the pandemic with that big numbers. What did we do? Did we test them? Are they lagging in? I want to know the true classification. How did it happen with all the pandemic and we reclassify our EL? Is that based on the test that they take? Are we going to follow up on them, or are they just are they just numbers? I'm really very curious. The next one is that on July 8th, I was able to gather a group of board members from different districts, Moreno Valley, Jurupa, Murrieta, Rialto, San Jacinto, and Alvord. And we're going to be doing a school board members forum, and we'll be sharing experiences on how we did business during the pandemic and the challenges that all of us faced. And then, what is here? Of course, on July 20, I was able to gather some 14 superintendents in our Summer Institute Superintendents Forum. That's a big number of superintendents to share their equity-driven decisions during the pandemic that they're all going to be sharing about. Very, very strong presence. And so with 14 superintendents talking about equity and the decisions, I think it will be a big learning event for all of us. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Lawless. Next, Mr. Z.
Thank you, President Pollock. I know in our some of our reassignments today, Ginger Pruitt, we're putting as a literacy specialist. I'm not sure if that's the exact terminology that we're using, or director. I'd like to see also in the board mail out, or maybe even have her come at a next meeting and really kind of lay out the game plan of what that's going to look at, because that is a huge undertaking, especially given what we've been through the last 15 months. It's going to be overwhelming, I believe. So I just want to make sure that we give her as much support as we possibly can. I know she'll do a great job, but it's going to be a huge undertaking. And President Pollock had mentioned something to me earlier that Capistrano District was doing, and they were doing a resolution to Cal OSHA, which I'd like to see us do, and it relates to the mask situation, because they keep flipping really in the last, and Tracy, you can help me with this, I think in the last 2.5 weeks, they flipped like 4 different times. That's correct, isn't it? Which, they got to land somewhere. If people want to wear masks, I'm fine with that. But people think that it's the 5 of us that make that decision. It isn't. So I think I'd like to see us stand up as a board and send something to Cal OSHA in that regards. All right, with that, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Marikin.
Thank you, President. I want to, first of all, just go back and reflect on our journey this year. And, it's great to see the graduates. I mean, that was stunning. But I want to go back and thank the ADs. Okay, they came up to us and asked us that to open up the school so that the students could do their athletics. And I know that even the students came and pleaded with us too. And to see at the end of the year them going to state competitions, going to national competition, just warms my heart. So I want to put a big thank you to the ADs. If you can give them a hand. Thank you, ADs. I also want to tag along with John and Bill and my other colleagues here too, that we should do something like this about the mask, because it is insane. You walk into one place and you can wear a mask. You walk into another place and you don't have to wear it. And even from city to city, you go into our city here in Corona, you go to Eastville, you go down to the beach, and everybody's doing something different. So I think right now people are just tired of being flip-flopped with that scenario there. I also want to congratulate the teams that are continuing to play in the playoffs and wish them well, and that it's a memorable year, and I hope everybody goes with positive attitudes of what did happen and what we did accomplish instead of looking at the negativity of it. But thank you all for allowing us to make these decisions up here so that your children can get the education that they need. Thank you.
Ms. Ibarra?
I'd like to congratulate our Panthers on their state championship, and we'll be bringing our basketball teams and lacrosse, I guess, the next meeting. We are just so proud as a board and a district of our students going through this pandemic and going through everything that these kids have gone through, and we were able to bring them back so they can play. And I know that we had so much going on in our district, and I'm just glad that we were able to, you know, bring the kids back in cohorts and on the field. Also, I would like to congratulate all our district employees and admin of the year. Very well deserved. And I'm happy to hear of the number of reclassifications. I believe, totally believe, all students should be reclassified before leaving elementary school. And I know we're working on that, but I want to see this happen. If the kids are here when they're in kinder or first grade, there is no reason for them to go all the way to high school and not be reclassified. Something's happening. They're falling through the, through the holes. Yes, some kids do arrive here from another country when they're in high school. I see that. But when they're here in elementary school, it needs to get done early. So thank you, Carlos Flores, for doing that, for working on that in your team. And I know you sent out a report already, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ibarra. So, Dr. Monroe, Ms. Now, I'd like to ask that we have a discussion action item next meeting to submit a proposal or a resolution to the California Department of Public Health asking for the removal of the mask mandate and making masks optional for students and teachers. So if we can get that on the next agenda, and we could have a discussion to discuss that. This meeting was incredible. We finally got to see some of the celebration for our students. Our students have done an incredible job this year. The graduations, the promotions that we all went to, we saw the video of the graduations. To see those kids socializing together, being together. It was a rough year for them, and so I just was so glad to see that. We got to see the senior award ceremonies, the choir and the band concerts. We got to see these kids out there doing what they love to do. So that was just awesome. And I know that we have talked a lot about the sports, but as Ms. Marroquin said, we really pushed for this because we wanted confidence in our students and our community that this could be done. We can get the kids back, and sports was what was allowed to take place. And so I think, we already saw the Corona wrestlers, but Centennial girls and boys, public schools are state champions. That's awesome. Roosevelt softball, CIF Division I runner-ups, Norco boys lacrosse. We have a Norco High grad who's going to be in the Olympics. It's just awesome to be able to celebrate these kids. And so I thank the staff, I thank the parents who've really worked and fought to get your kids where they are now. So I just really want to thank you guys. And then had a chance to go out to Summer Boost at Wilson. And Dr. Young took me through the day, and it was great. And it was right after the announcement that they could be without mask outside, and to see smiles on these little kids and the teachers. The teachers love it. The teachers are reaching out to us, telling us we can't do our job behind these masks. And so I think it's important that we stand up for these kids. That's all. Thank you. Next, Our employee associations, do we have anyone from CNTA here? Okay. No? Okay. Do we have anyone from CSEA? I think I saw Lorena. Thank you.
Good evening, school board members, Dr. Buenrostro and cabinet. CSEA and the district is close to completing our successor contract negotiations. One of the major changes CSEA was looking for was that the district would provide coverage for medical costs to the classified employee group. The district did not agree to that coverage, but they agreed to cover cost increase to any out-of-pocket cost for the next 2 years. CSEA would like to address this to you, the school board. We are pleading with you to see that in the future, the district starts planning in their budget how they will change their plan to include classified medical insurance coverage. We will continue to come to you until the school board makes this happen. I'm here representing over 1,800 members. Another major issue is the district's hiring practice. CSEA would like to see the district change their hiring practice to appointing whoever they want. CSEA hears rumors of positions that are specifically going to given to chosen employees. CSEA reports the rumors to management, and we feel that it falls on deaf ears. For that reason, they might as well just change their system and appoint whoever they want and stop wasting other people's time and hope. Also, there are policy board changes. It would be thoughtful for the district to bring forward to CSEA before the changes are posted on the agenda. Lastly, there are a few items on the agenda where the district continues to contract out our classified work. We will be meeting with the district to bring the issues to the table, but once again, lack of communication regarding items being on the agenda and not sharing information with CSEA in advance is not collaborative. Thank you for listening and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next on to public comment. Thank you guys for your patience. We have multiple comments on various items. There's going to be a second public comment later on, so if, that will take place a little bit later on. But at this point in our agenda, we invite the public to address the board. Please limit remarks to 3 minutes or less. Comments will be timed. I remind the audience that this is a public session of the board and not a meeting of the public. Although the board will not respond to speakers directly, either during public comment or after the meeting, staff members will contact speakers or follow up with written communication. If multiple speakers address the same subject, I may request that subsequent speakers only add new information. The time limit for a given topic is 20 minutes, regardless of the number of speakers. If a speaker wishes to be heard on more than 3 topics, the speaker will be allowed up to a total of 10 minutes to address all desired items. Persons who have complaints against employees of the district are encouraged to seek resolution of those complaints by utilizing the district's written complaint procedures rather than orally addressing them at a meeting. Please refrain from applauding after each speaker. Public comment is now open. And these are in order that they are received. First up, Chelsea Harwood.
My name is Chelsea Harwood. I am a teacher and parent in this district. I'm here to encourage this board to speak and write to the California Department of Public Health, Riverside County Department of Public Health, and state on behalf of parents, staff, and children you represent to demand mask use to be a recommendation, not a requirement. Lodi, Rockland, Durham, and other school boards are writing to the state representing their parents and students to get rid of the mask mandate for their students. It's our turn. It's your turn to advocate for the children that you represent and confront our state. Many restrictions have been lifted due to vaccinations and record low infection rates, but masks are still required in California K through 12 schools. Where is the science to support this? On the contrary, there is evidence from studies that show children are the least susceptible to getting the virus, are the lowest affected demographic, and are not high transmitters of the virus. The California Department of Public Health shows data that the death percentage of children ages birth through 17 from COVID is 0.0%. There are mountains of evidence that found wearing masks doesn't stop the virus from spreading. There are multiple verified peer-reviewed mask studies that state students who wear masks have adverse effects like headaches, shortness of breath, chronic stress, depression, anxiety, compromised cognitive performance, and many more. Teachers and parents are seeing firsthand how the virus response and strict measures are causing more harm than good to the neurological, psychosocial, and physical health of the children you represent. This is taking a toll on our children and staff. What I have seen firsthand in my students and my own children in the short term is devastating. We do not know the long-lasting effects masks will have on our children, so what will you do? Our district's mission statement states you will provide a quality education within a secure and supportive environment. How is this supportive and secure environment? It states we'll promote social growth. How can we do that? We can't see each other's faces. It states we'll promote responsible decision making. How can we promote this if you aren't allowing them to make their own decisions? It states our mission will be accomplished by utilizing shared decision making and parent and community involvement. If you truly live out your mission statement and are concerned about our children's overall health and well-being, then you will listen and you will act on behalf of parents, staff, and students who you state should have involvement in decisions. As the district states in their first guiding principle, student needs are priority one. So write to the state to make mask wearing a recommendation, not a requirement in our school district. It's time to bring back local control back to our district so we can make decisions. Let parents and students decide what the best medical decision is for their overall health. You have a duty to work for those who elected you, not the unelected state and county health boards. They do not represent us, you do. Parents, staff, and students, there is power in numbers. The more people, the louder a voice will be. We know what's coming next, mandatory vaccines. I know from working in this district that the squeaky wheel is heard. Stand up, speak up, and hold the line now. Don't wait until the next announcement from the government. If you're a teacher in the district, we have a group of like-minded teachers and we would love for you to join. I also encourage you to join the Let Them Breathe group. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Patty Haas.
Can't hear. Patty Haas.
Sorry, Patty Haas.
I passed out, I'm very sorry. Hello, everybody. I am a teacher, I am a parent, and I hope we can make some change. It's time for our children and staff to stop wearing masks. Wearing masks for long periods of time and seeing others wear masks can damage people physically, emotionally, and psychologically. Children can be the most vulnerable. According to the American Lung Association, only N95 masks are 95% effective at keeping the wearer free of inhaling viral particles. Surgical masks are less effective, and cloth face coverings are even less effective. The CDC says multi-layer cloth masks can block up to 50 to 70% of these fine droplets and particles. Most kids and teachers are wearing masks with 1 to 2 layers, equating to 25 to 30% effective rate. But back to the American Lung Association. They say wearing a mask is showing respect for others and is your way of helping lessen the spread of the disease. It's important that the mask not be so thick as to make breathing through them completely uncomfortable. Filter inserts are probably not necessary and make the masks more uncomfortable. So American Lung Association says not to wear them. Okay. Well, let's get back to the classroom. In the morning, we set the tone by welcoming kids with a smile. Some kids live for that smile. Can't do that now. During circle time, we build our classroom community with smiles and expressions on our faces, especially when reading stories and getting into character. Can't do that either. Let's talk curriculum, the most important part to school, second only to making sure our kids feel safe, loved, and can have their needs met, is learning how to read. The most important tool in my classroom is my face. I use my mouth to model phonemes. My students need to know how my lips and tongue and teeth mold together to create the sounds to the words I'm teaching them. With the mask, they can't see if I'm making the TH digraph or just the consonant sound of F. How can a student who barely knows their letters and sounds figure out what other letter options are available to use? Let's not even bring up the challenges of our English learners. They're becoming more mute than ever before. Please let us come together for our kids with special needs, our kids that are typical, and our kids who just need to smile and breathe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I'm sorry about the last name, Julie Rogar or Rogan? I'm not exactly sure. Is it Rogan? Rogan. Yes. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Hi, good evening. My name is Julie, and I'm a parent and a teacher in this district. I'm here today speaking up for those staff members who disagree with the need and effectiveness of masks in the classroom. I'm also here speaking up for the many parents who see the damage that this is doing to their children and the quality of their education. I'm here to urge you, the board, to push our county officials in requesting masks be a choice rather than a requirement for both teachers and students. As we have seen recently in Fauci's mistakenly publicized emails, masks are not helpful in reducing the spread of COVID. So why are we forcing students and staff to wear them, especially for long periods of time? Prolonged mask wearing has actually been proven to be more harmful to a child's health. In recent news, a group of parents in Florida sent 6 children's masks to a lab to be evaluated for viruses and harmful bacteria. Of those 6 masks, 5 of them were contaminated with bacteria, parasites, and fungi, including 3 dangerous pathogenic bacteria and 11 alarmingly dangerous pathogens, including pneumonia, tuberculosis, meningitis, sepsis, food poisoning, and diphtheria, to name just a few. Seeing these lab results, we can most definitely conclude that we are putting our children and students at serious risk, and much more serious risk than COVID has proven to be on them. Face masks are not intended for long-term wear by anyone, let alone children in a non-medical and non-sterilized setting. Masks are not required while students are playing at the park or playing in their organized sports. Honestly, it's not required anywhere but school classrooms. If COVID was so detrimental to children's health, why aren't masks required literally everywhere else in public? Even Disneyland do not require them at this point. Children are the least affected by this virus, but we are actually making them more susceptible to illnesses by forcing them to keep a piece of useless material over their mouths and nose all day long. The masks are not a burden our public school students should have to endure. I encourage you to use data from our surrounding states which have opened classrooms without a mask mandate. These states that are not requiring masks in the classroom have not seen a rise in COVID numbers. I can see firsthand how the mask wearing is inhibiting their learning and creating larger academic gaps. Students have stopped participating because it's frustrating to try speaking through a mask and understand what's being said. It's causing headaches, a lack of focus, agitation, less social interaction, and virtually no collaboration in the classroom. What happened to the importance and effectiveness of student collaboration? All of a sudden it's not important? What about the mental health aspect of covering their faces all day and being forced to feel like they can't breathe? I imagine how hard it is for them to even concentrate. I'm an adult, and it is extremely agitating to me, talking through a mask all day or hearing my own loud voice echoing in my ear from a shield. Students are not able to fully connect emotionally and socially with their own teachers because they can't see their own teachers' faces as they try to learn new things in the classroom. Speaking as a district teacher now on the topic of mandated vaccines, you will definitely have a ton of pushback if there's any requirement for staff to get vaccinated. You will have even more pushback if non-vaccinated staff are still required to wear a mask because of their choice to not get an experimental vaccine, and one that is not even approved by the FDA. We talk about equity all the time. Where's the equity in that? Teachers are already going out on medical and stress leave from the long-term mask wearing. I urge you, board, to consider all voices on the mask and vaccine issue. The insanity needs to stop. It's time to start being proactive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Erica Blad. Is that correct? Blade, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I want to just say that I agree with everyone that has just spoken before me, and they covered a lot of things that I was going to speak. I came here not ready to speak, but I thought I needed to be the voice of so many people that I've had dealings with over the last year. So many people have pulled their kids out of the school district and have decided to homeschool, which is so hard to do, but we felt like there was no choice for us because we don't want our children going to school with masks on. It's not that we're afraid that they're going to get sick, because we know the science that kids aren't really getting sick. My kids honestly have actually had COVID and they didn't really have symptoms. They barely had little symptoms, and they've had a cold since then and it was worse. So I have living proof that children don't get very sick from this disease, and so they should be going to school without their masks. I have 4 children. I've been in the school district since 2009. I have 2 kids that are special needs. That's been very difficult too. 2 of them I decided to homeschool. They will be homeschooled until masks are taken away. I don't have any names, but I have many people who will be withdrawing their kids from the school come the first beginning of the year if masks are still supposed to be worn. I don't want to repeat a lot of the things people said, but I think one thing that has bothered many of us is that there hasn't been any surveys sent out to the parents. There were some at the very beginning of the year, and they were very broad, not asking parents specifically what they wanted as far as if their kids went back to school, what were their concerns. I think that there's a lot of topics that will be talked about later, the CRT, the sex ed, and the mask, that parents should be getting a voice of what they want their kids to learn. It shouldn't be up to a school board. It shouldn't be up to a few people. We should all be knowing exactly what you guys want to teach, and we should be having a voice. You are here because we are employing our children. You have a job because our children are coming to school. And that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you. Next, Alicia Robinson. Okay, you got it. Hello. You could go ahead and start. Yeah.
Hello, good evening. My name is Alicia Robinson, and that's Alicia with an E. My 3 kids have been in the Corona Norco School District for a decade, for 10 years. I am a graduate of Centennial CNUSD. One of my great concerns right now is the mask wearing at school. My high schooler was getting dizzy while wearing a mask. Her breathing was hindered while in your care. While I was in the office, staff had their masks at their chin. The hypocrisy of it all baffled me. When my daughter was scolded by a teacher, she had explained to that teacher, I just came from PE, I walked across campus, I went up a flight of stairs, I'm trying to catch my breath. This teacher was more concerned about her not having on a mask. My 7-year-old wears a mask. He has negative vision in both eyes. Now his nose is covered, his eyes, and his mouth. He said it feels like he's blowing a bunch of balloons. So that's his way of explaining his lightheadedness to me. Now let's use some common sense here. These kids are able to pull down their mask while having a snack, then pulling it back up because the virus doesn't spread when we're eating, right? Not only are there physical health issues, there are social and emotional problems that are all attached to mask wearing. I've heard the board talk about learning loss. I'm sure there's a correlation with students having their senses covered and sitting behind plexiglass. Less oxygen is available. Symptoms such as rapid breathing, rapid heart rate, clumsiness, emotional upsets, and fatigue can even result of this, because there's less oxygen that is becoming available, causing nausea, vomiting, collapse, convulsions, coma, and death can occur. When I picked up my high schooler, she had a headache. When she got home, she was vomiting. So this is proof. May I remind you, Ed Code 4900 5.8, it is illegal to restrain or impair a pupil's respiratory airway and or breathing. My children's airways are impaired. Parents in Gainesville sent their kids' face masks to a lab. They found masks were contaminated with bacteria, parasites, fungi, ammonia, tuberculosis, meningitis, sepsis, bloodstream infections, UTI, E. coli, and those are to name a few. These pathogens can cause fever, ulcers, acne, yeast infections, strep throat. No viruses were detected on these masks. The masks are worn over your mouth and your nose, which provides warmth and moisture, which is a petri dish. It's a breeding ground. If you think about these kids wearing the masks, they go to the restrooms, they touch their faces. I love my kids immensely, and there isn't anything that I wouldn't do for them. I understand there are challenges. I've seen their tears. I've seen the changes. I've seen their struggles. So I know what I'm talking about. And may I leave you with this: whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Philippians 4:8.
Thank you. Next, Debbie Carter.
Hi. I'm here to advocate that students not be forced to wear face masks when they return to school in the fall. A University of Florida lab recently analyzed a small sample of face masks and detected the presence of 11 dangerous pathogens on the coverings, including bacteria that causes diphtheria, pneumonia, and meningitis. Parents in Gainesville, Florida, who had concerns about the harm caused to their children wearing face masks throughout the school day in 90-degree weather, sent 6 masks that had been worn for 5 to 8 hours at school to be analyzed for contaminants at the University of Florida's Mass Spectrometry Research and Education Center. 5 of the masks were worn by children ages 6 to 11. 1 was worn by an adult. All of the face masks in the study were either new or freshly laundered prior to being worn. After the study, 5 of the masks were found to be contaminated with parasites, fungi, and bacteria. 1 was found to contain a virus that can cause a fatal systemic disease in cattle and deer. Other pathogens that can cause ulcers, acne, and strep throat were also detected on the face coverings. A control sample that consisted of masks that had not been worn and a t-shirt worn at school were also analyzed, and none of these control samples were contaminated with pathogens. I live near Corona Fundamental Intermediate School, where I pass by students outside at PE playing catch 30 feet apart, wearing masks in 90-degree heat. Yesterday, while waiting at a stoplight at a different location, I observed a cross-country team at a crosswalk waiting at the light with masks on, running in place. When the light changed, they removed their masks. We're forcing our children to follow idiotic rules that will cause them harm, and they're becoming afraid to go out without masks. Students should not be forced to wear face coverings to school in the fall. The face coverings they have been forced to wear are easily contaminated and cause more harm than COVID-19 to our young people. Do the right thing, please, and allow our children to attend class without face coverings. Let them see each other's faces and practice nonverbal communication again. Let them breathe. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Agraz. Liz Agraz. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to start off with a quick prayer. Lord God, we pray for the Holy Spirit to be in this room right now. I pray for each and every one of our board members, the parents here today, but especially the students of our Corona Norco Unified School District. We love our children, and we pray that you would hear our hearts today. In Jesus' name, I pray this. Amen. I'm a parent of 2 current students and an incoming kindergartner this fall. The reason for me being here is because we do not want masks this new school year. We all know the 2020-2021 school year was extremely difficult. Our kids for over a year now have been forced to endure the greatest changes to their lives in the name of public health. I understand you all are in a position you never expected you would be in. However, it is your duty to do what is right and respect all students and all families in our district. Our children are healthy kids. They are not walking viruses that should be feared. It's heartbreaking to know that our kids have been reduced to such a degree where they are looked at as threats. As the adults, we all have a responsibility to them. However, it seems that their mental, emotional, and psychological health no longer matter. Now, I can imagine your argument is that you have to follow state guidelines, CDPH mandates, but that's just an excuse. Your hands are not tied. And though this isn't your fault, you do have to be held accountable for our kids in this district. We are not asking for forced removal of masks. Everyone has the right to make their decision for their children. Those that choose to mask can, and those that do not choose should be able to as well. Last, I emailed you all last Monday and have yet to receive a response, so I will say it again here. My main question in my email, because we obviously cannot listen to science, is on a religious stance. As a Christian, per our doctrine, the Bible, we are not to cover our faces. You can find that in 2 Corinthians 3:18. This is our religious belief. Therefore, you stopping my child at the entrance of our schools and handing them a mask, or not allowing them to enter the school because they do not have a mask, is religious discrimination based on California Religious Freedom Act. You would never stop anyone wearing a hijab per their faith and tell them to take it off before they could enter the school. You would be fired. That would be illegal. But you do it to us. Discrimination toward any faith is wrong. I pray and I ask that you would consider what we have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the next group of cards. Marita Ramsey.
Hello, my name is Marita Ramsey. I'm the mother of 3 children that reside within this district. I also have a bachelor's in child and adolescent development and a master's in education for a diverse population. My request here is that, and I'm happy to hear Bill say that it's being proposed for the next meeting, but I would like for the board to take a proactive stance rather than a passive stance like you did with the reopening, and to push towards these state departments for mask choice. I think it should be an option. I feel that the masks are damaging to social emotional development for our children and also for language development. Imagine coming in as a kindergartner, you should be coming into a classroom full of wonder and curiosity. But all these faces that they would normally use as receptors to see, to judge, am I doing a good job? Do they like me here? They're all shut off from these children. International studies over the past year and a half show that schools and school-age children are low risk and that they're also low factors in the spread. Another thing that I would like to discuss is in regards to vaccines. It's going to be a year or two before they are FDA approved. So I want to make, and also the World Health Organization recently released a statement saying that unless they're high risk, they're now recommending 18 and over get the vaccine. And because with children, there has not been sufficient time to study the effects on them. So given those guidelines, I want to make sure that there's no mandatory vaccines in our schools, that there's no, for this COVID vaccine, that our children aren't getting surveys asking if we've been vaccinated, that our children are not offered vaccines at the school without parental consent, and that there's no discrimination for unvaccinated versus vaccinated, such as making those not vaccinated continue to wear a mask as a scarlet letter that they are not complying. And then the last issue that I wanted to bring up is the issue of California is now proposing ethnic studies. Whether you call that CRT or ethnic studies, I just want to make sure that in our school districts that there's no material that teaches to shame anyone color skin or anyone ethnicity. Also, I don't want any teaching. I have 2 Latino children. I have a white child that teaches either of them that their success or their social status are influenced by skin color, or that they're fixed. They should have a growth mentality. They should believe that by their efforts and by their merits and by their character, that's how they achieve success. And then my last thing I wanted to mention, and this goes to the whole board, I'm very disappointed at the lack of response from the board. My husband has sent a couple emails, one regarding Lawless blocking him on social media.
Sorry, the time has expired.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Vanessa Nelson. Sorry, Vanessa Nelson. Hi, Vanessa.
I also wanted to reiterate the mask situation. I find it disheartening and pretty much criminal that you guys are requiring to have children to wear masks, especially when they're 7 to 20 times more likely to die from the regular flu than they are from COVID. So I find the excuse that it's for the teachers or for the children to be just passing the buck at this point. You guys have been put into leadership positions, and you're being called to lead these children, and you're just passing the buck to the state, and it's pretty disappointing. I wanted to also talk to you about the new health surveys that are going out, asking preteens what gender they identify as and what their sexual orientation is. I'm confused at what kind of adult thinks it's appropriate to ask children these types of questions. I personally see it as creepy. But maybe you're all okay with the sexualization of our children, and it's starting to look that way. In a district where 65% of your students aren't proficient in math and more than 50% aren't proficient at reading, what makes you think that you're capable of taking on more subject matter? I think you should focus on the basics first. To further this point, I'd like to know what the equity training and critical race theory is that's going to be entering in our schools. It's not my place to judge, but there has been evidence of racism sitting on this board. The daughter of one of the people sitting on this board has posted things on social media about white folks and how they need to stop killing people and go to therapy. Mr. Lawless did not denounce what his family said, but he has written a chapter with her on ethical decision making as part of an equity training book, which I also find to be convenient for him if he wants to bring equity training into the schools. I would like to know how the white folks in these classes would feel with this type of ethics being taught in the classroom. I find it to be heartbreaking, to say the least. Let me remind you that equity and equality are 2 different things. Racism against any group has been and will always be wrong. The test scores in this district have been tanking a nosedive since 2017, but the district wants to spend time on indoctrinating Marxist equity training to the children. Why not focus on the basics of education like math and language? Martin Luther Jr. King famously said, "Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed." You, the teachers union, and those pushing masks, sexualization, racist curriculum are indeed oppressors of innocent children, and we demand their freedom from your indoctrination and your bias. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, and I apologize, I believe it's Reina Mudawar. Reina Mudawar? Okay. I'm sorry if I...
That's okay. So I'm going to touch on a lot of what they've already said. I have it written down, but I'm going to cut a lot of it off so I don't repeat myself. But we all know how as parents feel about the masks. They need to go. They're not good for the kids. They're hurting our kids. It's your job to protect our kids, and you're not doing that when you push this crap. So I'm going to start and just cut pieces of what I've written, but America, known as the land of the free and the home of the brave, it doesn't feel that free anymore. It's really disheartening. We're known as the land of the brave, but those that are brave are few and far between. I never thought in my lifetime I would see the day come that we would be fighting to preserve the very freedoms that our founding fathers died fighting for. There is so much clownery, I don't even know where to begin. And let me tell you, I don't have kids in this district, but I think that the kids in this district are worth fighting for. Let's get our schools back to the business of educating our kids and less about dividing them. Let's get back to the days when we offered home ec classes, not what gender you are. We offer a sex ed curriculum that under any other circumstance would get the cops called on you, but any word of God would get you canceled. Speaking of education, let's chat about the adverse effects of COVID vaccine. With talk about mandatory vaccines and passports coming down the pipeline, why is the data about the vaccine being suppressed? If you search hard enough, you'll find information about the effects of shedding in large hearts in these kids that are dying from it, some of them, and even the death rate. You have to be willing to educate yourself with this information. Instead, you choose to look the other way and continue to push the agenda of not only poisoning our children physically, but mentally. Which leads me to the masks. I don't need to get into the mask, but I'm going to tell you this. Doctors, like Dr. Fauci, are only lining their pockets, and you sit there, and I'm sure your pockets are being lined too. I'm going to end with the issue of CRT. I'm going to quote Liz Wheeler here. I liked what she had to say about it. CRT isn't even a theory. It's not even a perspective of history. It's racialism reducing everyone to race. Its purpose is to tear down Western institutes with accusations of systemic racism, using minorities as the vanguard with the sole purpose of imposing Marxism. It must stop. Stop using our kids as pawns to usher in your agenda. Stop this wokeism that is actually a jokeism that is being used to straight up lead us into communism. And if it continues, you will open the floodgates and unleash angry moms and dads that will no longer stand for this. You brought up learning from history. We are literally living history. And if this show your papers if you're vaccinated doesn't ring to your ears so harshly, I don't know what history you're reading.
Thank you. Next, Annette Hogner. I'm sorry. Annette Hogner. Annette Hogner. I don't know why they can't hear.
Okay. All right. Hi, good evening, everyone. I am the Riverside County Ambassador for the Children's Health Defense, and I am here to make clear that we are against mandating anything under the EUA. That includes masks and vaccines. I know that you all have received a notice of liability letter sent to you by the Children's Health Defense in January and again in March. We are concerned that you are being pressured to enforce vaccine and COVID passport mandates on our students, and as our state gives the green light. This is a highly controversial shot, not a vaccine. It is a shot with many side effects, and many people are dying and are being severely injured from it with heart issues and blood clots, for example. According to the WHO, there is not enough evidence on the use of vaccines against COVID-19 in children to make recommendations for children to be vaccinated against COVID-19 and should not be vaccinated at the moment. If this were safe, this would be no question of hesitation. The CDC is scheduled to have an emergency meeting June 23rd to 25th to discuss the reports of young people developing serious heart issues after the mRNA vaccines. And the emergency meeting was announced last week after the CDC acknowledged a higher than expected number of reports of heart inflammation in young people after they received a Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. Your job as our school board is to protect the students of this district and none of this has been proven safe and or effective. The EUA statute explicitly states that administration of all EUA products must ensure that individuals to whom the product is administered are informed of the option to accept or refuse administration of the product. Do you have informed consent written policy for this district? If so, where is it? If you guys are going to intend to enforce this, we need to see it. Additionally, extensive protocols are required by federal law for assessing the effectiveness and safety of the EUA products, while also protecting the user's medical health, privacy, and guarded rights. Federal and state law rests on the first principle of the Nuremberg Code, requiring that the people are able to exercise free power of choice without undue inducement or any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, or other forms of constraint or coercion. This is a bright line that cannot be blurred. The consent of the individual and their parents is absolutely essential. We are rapidly descending into society which blatant criminal and legally suspect actions are being imposed on us to simply participate in normal aspects of life, like going to school, for instance. As a duly elected official, you are personally liable for violating any law. Each of you must cease and desist all unconstitutional mandates or resign, or you will be sued individually. Lawsuits have already been filed against LAUSD Superintendent Austin Butner and his subordinates, and many others are in the works. We don't want this to go this far in our district, but we are prepared to fight to
Thank you.
the
The time
end.
has expired.
Stop the crimes against humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Casanova.
The camera. Okay. What I have to say is I've met the most brave and incredible individuals out there in the hallway I've ever met that have researched more than CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of those poor excuses of media outlets. Another thing I want to touch on is I demand that you end the mask mandate. Not next month, not next week. All you need is a simple motion and a second. That's all you need. Anyone who has read the efficacy on masks knows that especially cloth ones are ineffective. MIT recently came out with a study that said 6 feet apart or 60 feet apart made no difference. MIT. Next, when we talk about mask efficacy, okay, that only works in N95 masks, which are only 95% effaced, okay? That only have a 95% chance of working if they're worn properly. A recent study said that only 12% of adults know how to wear a mask properly, let alone children. I was horrified to see my son, after all day wearing a mask, peel it off his face with nothing but brown gook behind it. And I have to wonder what bacteria lies there for him. Next, when it comes to vaccines, okay, you cannot force anyone, as anyone has already indicated, under the Constitution, that is illegal search and seizure for you to ask. It violates HIPAA, and likewise, it also violates the Nuremberg Code. You know, the reason why the Nazis did all the eugenics, that's why that was in place. Now, as the last thing, when it comes to CRT, we talk about a separation of church and state. Well, I have a faith, but also CRT, CR, critical theory is also a religion that you're imposing on people. You're teaching them to hate others. This is the most horrifying thing I've ever encountered in my life. Never did I think that my grandparents who escaped Cuba would fall into the same problems that they escaped. Taking their property, telling certain ethnic groups that they're less than, so they're okay to steal and lie and cheat and rat people out because they have differing political views. And then condoning of violence through CRT by any means possible. That you're going to tell my son, who is 1/16 African who looks white, that he is an oppressor, that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. I have nothing else to say. All I have to say is that you motion tonight to get rid of these items. You guys are pushing your books to be the first to lead the cause. Well, lead the cause in rejecting this in California.
Next, Devin Thomas. Devin Thomas? No? Okay. All right. Okay, next set of cards. Each set of cards is a little bit different. So, Bethann Williams.
Good evening, board. I am so encouraged tonight. I was at the Riverside Unified School Board meeting earlier this week. I'm from Riverside, but tonight has been emotional and passionate, and I am so proud of these teachers and parents standing up for what is right. I'm very against the mask. I'm encouraged to hear that you are unified in that stance as well. I'm very encouraged in that. But I'm here representing the many parents and teachers that are horrified at these experimental vaccines, which are not vaccines. I'm here to represent the defenseless children attending our public schools. People are starting to wake up to these lies that are being perpetuated on them in the name of public health. We're witnessing a massive experimental vaccine campaign, and our children are the primary targets now. And all of you on this board have a responsibility to our children. This is about money, not about our kids' health. If it were about their health, harmful masks would not be mandated, and dangerous experimental injections would not be coerced on our children. The World Health Organization, as others have mentioned tonight, is finally now stating that these experimental injections are not safe for children. They have shown to produce dangerous adverse reactions and even death. 1 in 9 adolescents have suffered a severe adverse event following the injection. The CDC is aware of hundreds of alarming reports of heart swelling in teenagers and young adults. The medical precedent for pulling a vaccine has always been 50 deaths. And new evidence from a whistleblower inside the CDC says that the actual deaths are closer to 50,000. 50,000 deaths. What's going on? Why is this being encouraged for our children? I cannot wrap my mind around this. There's early prevention treatments for COVID, like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, that have been suppressed for the whole last year and a half to fuel this vaccination campaign. I can't imagine the amount of hospitalizations and lives lost due to the suppression of these treatments. Natural immunity is God-given. It exceeds any immunity you could ever have, but that's been ignored because it doesn't reel in the money. I hope those listening will start doing a lot more research. Please do your research on these experimental biological injections. They're not vaccines as we know them. They bear great risk to our children in the short term and absolutely great risk in the long term. Please, if you do your research, you can't with a clear conscience sign up your child to be a guinea pig for these experimental vaccines. This is immoral and reprehensible.
Thank you. Next, Yolanda Haro. Yolanda Haro. This will be 6 minutes because both bilingual. Is that what you said?
But in English.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 minutes then.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Yolanda. I don't have kids, but I have an 11-year-old niece, and I would do anything on her behalf. As of today, the COVID-19 vaccine is only emergency approved by the FDA. It's an experimental mRNA vaccine that rewires cells at the genetic level. This experiment has no place in our schools. Schools are a safe haven for children where they should feel safe and protected, not coerced into being a lab rat. The recovery rate for children from this virus is 99.999%. Why are you pressing so hard to inoculate our kids in our schools? 1 in 9 COVID-19 vaccinated adolescents suffered a severe adverse event. Severe adverse events include fever greater than 102, vomiting that requires IV hydrations, diarrhea of 6 or more loose stools in 24 hours, and severe fatigue, severe headache, severe muscle pain, or severe joint pain that prevent daily activity. The extreme cases include myocarditis diagnosis, which is inflammation of the heart muscle, and pericarditis diagnosis, which is inflammation of the outer lining of the heart. These are becoming very prevalent among our children who have been vaccinated. So yesterday, the WHO recommended not to vaccinate young children due to all the adverse effects taking place. Again, why are you pressing so hard to inoculate our kids in our schools? You will be held accountable. Should any child at Corona Norco Unified School District face adverse health reactions or dies as a result of vaccine given at any of our school sites, you are responsible. Joe Salas, Elizabeth Marroquin, Mary Helen Ibarra, Mr. Z, and President Bill Pollack. Your directive and support of this asinine vaccine makes you complicit. According to the staff at your district office, you are simply following orders from the Riverside County Public Health Department. Let me remind you, the excuse of I was just following orders was already used by the Nazis 80 years ago.
Thank you. Next, Eric Neff.
My name is Eric Neff. I am a small business owner. I am the winner of the
Mr.
2013
Neff,
Small Business Owner of the Year Award for the Inland Empire. Yes. My mask is on, sir.
No, put it on.
Stop my time.
No, put it on.
Okay, I can't breathe when I do that. We've just had mask research like 15 people here. Okay, I can't breathe correctly when I do that. I have lung issues. Stop the time. Okay, is this good?
Yes.
Okay, now calm down, okay? Stay calm. Everything's going to be okay. So let me just start with this. Anybody that is willing to harm a child is our enemy. Do you guys understand that? So, again, I'm a small business owner. I've done business all over the Inland Empire with people all over the world. Fortunately, I've done business with people that fled the Communist Party of China. And guess what? They fled for a reason, because of communism. And we have a governor who runs our state. He did $1 billion deal with the Communist Party of China. For what? For masks, the BYD deal. After he did that deal, he started telling us to obey. Close churches, close small businesses, and close schools. And you guys were all complicit in that. Now, you guys bring vaccine clinics into the school districts right after they approved 12 to 15-year-olds to take this experimental drug that you're cloaking as a vaccine, but it's not. You guys brought a vaccine clinic to your middle school. We went there. They're letting people take the vaccine on the honor system. You guys are all complicit, and you guys are clamoring at the opportunity to inject a child with an experimental drug that you call is a vaccine on campus. That is absolutely ridiculous in a middle school right after the 12 to 15-year-olds approved. Excuse me, I'm choking on my mask. So Dr. Larry Plavinsky has stated that fertility clinics are experiencing a large increase in eggs and sperm that are becoming immobile and dead. You guys are trying to kill off future generations of these children, and that is ridiculous. But again, when our governor did the deal with the Chinese Communist Party, he has sold out the California Department of Public Health. They are also run now by the Chinese Communist Party, and you guys passed the buck to them. So you guys are bringing this communism right here to Corona Norco School District. It is ridiculous. The kids need to do this.
Okay. Let's do one more and then we'll have a break. Yeah, yeah. Okay, one more and then we're going to take a little break. Cleveland Carter. Cleveland Carter.
Tonight I want to speak on the board's equity in education policy. I read through this policy and the question would be, do you know how demeaning and demoralizing it is to tell a black student that they can't compete because of their history? I grew up in poverty. I grew up in Georgia in the 70s. Extreme racism, a lot of obstacles. But you know what? I had a mother tell me, don't let those circumstances affect what I could become. And I stand before you today as an accountant. And I'm not special. There are a lot of people who walked in the same path that I walked in. They didn't let their history define them. Now, I read through this policy, and one of the things that pointed out was the board believes in equal outcome for all students. So the rhetorical question for the board would be, did everyone start college with you, finish with you? Absolutely not. We cannot ever have equal outcome. In a situation where there's equal outcome for all, kids who excel are held back. Kids who are lagging, they get put in positions they can't cope with. It results in a marginalized student body, which results in a marginalized workforce, which results in a marginalized society. These are students, these are not robots. Oftentimes, kids who excel go on to do things like find a cure for COVID. And throughout this policy is written in such a way that you can hide between the wording. Some of the things, like critical race theory, this policy divides. One of the things it says, all throughout this policy is, the board believes in equity for all students. We all believe in equity for all students. But in every situation, it went on to say, especially those in let me get the right wording, underserved populations. Do you define that? Who defines underserved populations? I grew up eating ketchup sandwiches and bologna sandwiches, right? And I was able to go to college. I was able to get an education, and I'm supposed to be one of those underserved populations. If my kid come into your classroom and she's a straight A student, she moved here from Georgia, she comes in, she's going to be looked at as an underserved population. This is racist. And this particular policy has nothing. This policy divides. It pits one race against another. It tells one race, you're at an advantage, so we're going to discriminate you for some perceived disadvantage of another race. And all of this stems from a quote-unquote history of African American history, slavery. So since it's about history and slavery, I'm going to give you a quote from Booker T. Washington. What did he say about success? Booker T. Washington said, success is not to be measured so much about the position one has reached in life, but by the obstacles he has overcome to get to that success. We all have issues. We all have problems that we go through. It's what we do with that. This policy is discriminatory, it's divisive.
Thank you, the time has
It has no
expired.
need in this school board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a couple other blue cards, but those are going to wait until the second public comment section. On behalf of the Board of Education, thank you for your comments. Although the board will not respond to your concerns at this time, please be assured that all comments are taken seriously. As I stated previously, a staff member will contact you or follow up with written communication. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We will be back at 9:55. All right, we are back in session. Thank you for that little break. All right, next we are moving on to consent items. Are there any questions, comments, or highlights on any of the consent items? Okay, I see none. Are there any items to be pulled from the consent item? Ms. Now?
President Pollock, I would respectfully ask that we pull item 12K. It is a new board policy number 5145.12, student search and seizure. We would like to pull that item for this evening's board meeting and bring it back in July.
Okay, so that's 12K on page 6, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we will pull that one. All right, anything else? That's pulled and tabled, so we don't need to do any action, right? Okay. Any other items to be pulled? Okay, so we will vote on the consent. Do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent item? Okay. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Those opposed? None? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Okay, now we move on, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry, where? What page? Okay, I am sorry. No, we are pulling that and tabling that.
No. Right here. She has to.
12N, okay, that's okay, thank you. So we move on to item 12N, a community member request. At this time, we will entertain anyone wishing to address the board on this particular item. We ask that speakers limit remarks to 3 minutes or less. Comments will be timed. And I have 2 cards on this. Number 1, and again, I apologize, I think it's Andre Ordona. Andre Ordona. Going once? No? Okay. Next, Stacy Holly. Stacy Holly. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stacy Holly, and I'm here to discuss my concerns regarding the board meeting with Ms. Anderson on May 21st. For starters, she likes to use the words your truth, my truth, and her truth. But honestly, I've always been partial to the actual truth. She likes to focus on the words equity, which according to the definition reads, freedom from bias or favoritism. And unfortunately, this is the exact opposite of what she was promoting. She talks about oppression, privilege, and institutional racism, which in my opinion all sounds very familiar to critical race theory. For those of you not familiar with CRT, it's a very ugly and divisive theory based on the Marxist dichotomy of oppressor and oppressed. More than half of our states are in the process of banning it from their classrooms. In CRT, they advocate that the most important thing about you is the color of your skin. They say if you're white, you're racist, and if you're a minority, you're a victim of the system that is rigged against you, and that racism is present in all interactions. Please don't let the district distract you from the real issues. Don't be fooled by their fanatical use of words such as equity, diversity, and inclusiveness, when we all know they're just flowery cover words for CRT. California schools have chronically failed Black and Hispanic children. These are problems that will never be addressed by CRT. If there is not equality of outcomes among people born in the same family, raised under the same roof, why would we expect that elsewhere? If they really wanted to close the education gap, they would look at solutions to help those that are not achieving by looking at them on an individual basis, not as a group. Instead, their solution is to remove achievement-based grading and testing, amongst other things. I checked out Mr. Singleton, the author of the book shared by Ms. Anderson. Apparently, a school district hired him to help close the racial learning gap with the kids. Instead of attributing that gap to things such as poverty, language issues, family support, and mobility, he said it was all caused by institutional racism and whiteness. After 2 years and thousands of tax dollars, they had those same kids retake those same tests, and guess what? They all failed. So please tell me how eliminating higher learning, lowering standards, requiring equal outcomes, and removing academic classes to teach social justice is going to help our students. For these reasons, I'm requesting the board pass a resolution stating they will ban any material containing and/or relating to CRT and have all materials for teacher training and student teaching available online at the beginning of each school year for transparency, which should not be an issue if they have nothing to hide. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bunrostra, would you like to just give us a little bit of an update on what our district looks like with this? I mean, I know we sent out an FAQ saying we do not teach CRT, and I believe that. I want to hear it, information from you on this.
Yeah, thank you, President Pollock. The as you stated earlier, the on this agenda item on CRT was put on here by a community member. Absolutely, we are not teaching CRT or critical race theory, as it's known. We are not implementing CRT across the district. It is not in any course of study that we have. It is not planned as a professional development topic. You know, critical race theory is an academic movement. You hear about it more at the university level than anywhere else. It's an analytical tool. You might even say a framework. It's a theory. That's what it is. So it's a theory is a set of ideas that represent something, and I speak to you as a doctor in education, and also having been a professor for 9 years at the University of Laverne. So for tonight, for the community member calling for a resolution to ban materials containing or relating to critical race theory, really, and respectfully, it really represents a lack of understanding of theory, because a lot of the theory that is being aligned to it, or a lot of, I should say, isolated pieces like equity, inclusiveness that was just mentioned, and diversity. Those are beautiful things that have been in place in education since the Civil Rights Movement of 1965, signed into place by the Education and Secondary Act, the Elementary and Secondary Act by President Johnson, Lyndon Johnson, And it's been in place in various formats. George W. Bush, as recently as 15 years ago, he had the No Child Left Behind. And then with Obama, he has right now, these are federal mandates, by the way. We have the Every Student Succeeding Act. My point in mentioning this is that equity, inclusion, looking at test scores, looking at data, we are mandated federally and also statewide. So I think it's important for folks to understand that. But more importantly is we here in CNUSD, we don't want divisiveness. We don't do that. Okay, we want to bring the community together. If anything else, it's a very political and I would say divisive country right now, and everybody here understands that. But I think we're smarter than that. I think that what we are about is about bringing people together. So that's what we're about. So we're not going through the CRT. We're not teaching. We're not doing anything related to CRT. That's where we're at as a district. So if you guys have any other questions, I can address them. But I think it's important. Ask our teachers. What have we provided as professional development? Our teachers will tell you. Ask our students. So anyhow, it's. I get it. I get what's going on. This is not, by the way, this is not unique to CNUSD, what you had tonight. It's going across the country, as it was said earlier. So anyhow, I hope I have addressed some questions.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that we want to reiterate what Dr. Buenrostro just said, that the district, that the board right here all believes that we are not implementing CRT in any fashion, in any way. So we want to make that very clear.
Yeah, we are here for every child, every single child. And yes, what we do it with our, let me explain something that you guys know very well. With our LCAP, which is governed by the state of California, we provide equality and then we provide equity as it's needed for all children. The phenomenal programs that we have, the AVIDs of the world, the ag program at Norco, the sports programs that we have, the band program that's nationally recognized at Santiago High School, they do phenomenal work. It's for all children. As a community, we come together. We will continue that. That's critical, that we address all the children's needs.
And any curriculum that's out there that CNUSD is offering, is that available for any parent to review? What do we do if a parent says, I want to see that, let me see this curriculum for this class?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. What I'll do is I'll turn it over to Dr. Simon. She can address that. It's her department that she oversees.
Yeah, as an example, like Dr. Buenrostro says, we're transparent. If a parent calls and states, I'd like to look at the curriculum, as an example, with our health education, sometimes our parents will call, or community members, and they'll ask to review it, and we have them come down to the district office or to the parent center, and it's right there for them to review as long as they would like.
And is there a staff member there if they have questions to answer questions?
Yeah, yes, sorry, not yeah, yes, we do. Just as an example, in the past, we've had parents that have come down to review our curriculum, and Dr. Capps and Peter Lum have been there to answer any questions they may have.
What about any professional development opportunities? Are those available, not for like review, but to say, okay, this is what we're doing, in this area, equity area. These are the classes that we offer our teachers. Is that something that's public knowledge? Or can be?
We can certainly make it public. I can't recall a time where we've made a list of, these are the PD offerings we've had in these certain areas, and posted it out there, say, on our website or anything of that nature for public review specifically. I mean, we've provided information to the board in the past where people can have access. We have no problem putting that on the website or do it in a form of FAQs. We'd be more than happy to share the PD that we offer here in our district.
Well, I think that's important for, we use the word transparency, and I think it's important that curriculums, available to be evaluated so people, feel comfortable that, we are not teaching CRT, and also what the training is going on with our teachers, professional development wise.
Can I have something?
Dr. Lalas.
Yeah, my comments on CRT will be by way of a question, because I picked up on Dr. Benrostro that the challenge is, I got it, it's an understanding, right? You also mentioned about CRT as an analytical tool. The first question I have is, what is it that our school community has not understood about CRT? What is, in our field of education, we're not just technicians, but we think, we analyze, we review. So when you talk about lack of understanding, that is really a heavy term for me. What is it that you think our community needs to understand about CRT? Aside from you mentioning as an analytical tool. And how is that? How does that look like?
Well, I mentioned CRT, and I mentioned the University of Laverne because that was my first exposure to CRT. It's quite frankly, we have a lot of educators here, K-12, that have a lot of years, and many of them, and because we talk, many of them, CRT is a recent verbiage that we've learned. I'm well aware that CRT has been around since the 1970s. I get that piece. But so, and I say that using our staff as an example, that we need to provide probably a greater understanding of what really is CRT. And it depends somebody like Evita to help us message that. We've messaged the community. I'll tell you that there was a parent at intermission that's also a teacher that thanked us for providing the FAQ and addressing what equity is here. She felt that it's important for the community to know where we stand. So I think we need to do more efforts to communicate to our community so they understand what CRT, but more importantly, so they understand where we as a school district and a community are with CRT and what our stance is.
Mm-hmm. So when you say, and my fellow board members say, we are not implementing CRT, in the agenda it says critical race theory curriculum for instruction. How does a CRT curriculum for instruction look like?
Yeah, so and I think it speaks to what I said, Dr. Lalas. I think we are learning about CRT. What's on the agenda, and again, we're working with legal as well. There's a misinterpretation because there isn't really a CRT curriculum, if you will, materials. So that we need to educate our public a little bit more about that. It's a theory, right? It's a framework. It's not. The items, whether I mentioned some. Well, I mentioned some. Social emotional learning. We know how critical, it's been said tonight by our parents, how critical social emotional learning is, especially in an era like right now with the pandemic. Our students need that support. Well, that's an item that's under CRT. Come on. Or restorative practices. Those are things that you ask our counselors and our leaders that are doing a phenomenal job are all over this because they understand what the needs are. And in public education, and I think I'm a little bit on my soapbox right now, public education, we are about inspiring hope and really making a difference for children. And yes, not all children have the same. We understand that. But in this district, I believe we do a phenomenal job of meeting those needs. So I don't know if I addressed your question, but it's a little bit broad, the whole topic.
Because as I listen to the parents talking, I understand their question. I think I'm thinking back to us. Because when you say there's lack of understanding, maybe it's the lack of effort on our part to clarify what we meant by them. these are, our constituents, our parents, right? So when you talk about CRT, I think it will be better for our school district in terms of being transparent, instead of making a bold statement like, we're not going to implement CRT, but we are not having a preamble or our definition of what CRT means as a district. It's a very loose term that you're using, and I know you said you need to learn more about it. All of us need to learn more about it, but there are already concepts, phrases, descriptors that is being attached to CRT, which may or may, well, no, I think many are we have to be really careful to describe what it is. And transparency, I teach CRT in class at the university level, because we use it as an analytical tool. The same way we teach behaviorist theory to guide our teachers on how to teach reading. One of the teachers spoke of phonemic awareness. What is behind that? The behaviorist theory tells us that phonemic awareness should be taught. What about cognitivist theory? Some of our folks understand that we need to teach comprehension. So when we teach comprehension, we're guided by the constructivist theory of teaching and learning. What about sociocultural? So all of this, including CRT, all of these are taught at the university level to guide teachers, administrators, and counselors to solve problems of kids. We are not teaching that to kids. We are applying so we can teach the kids better. So that's my personal take on it, because I need to be transparent. We teach it. I teach it with a lot of my doctoral students, kids who are going to teaching, because we have to teach them all the theory so they can apply it. We teach them self-determination theory. How can we motivate kids? Well, they have to provide them with sense of belonging, competence, autonomy. So all of those are in the teacher's head, and they're applying the concepts. And they're not trying to be divisive. They're trying to be creative and constructive in making sure that they're teaching the kids well and that they are reaching out. So that's my personal, but I think the district needs to have a clear position on this, instead of saying, I won't implement, I won't do this, I won't do that. But what is it that we are not going to implement? We're not even making it clear to the community what we meant by it. So that to me is,
Thank you.
You're a professor at a university. We are a K-12 system. We want equal for every child. We want every child to succeed. You've mentioned a couple pieces, Dr. Bonostro, that are part of CRT that we would use. The argument for most folks for CRT is the racist aspect. We will never do that. Mm-hmm. That is not who we are. It is not who we have ever been. And God help us, it's not who we will ever be. So I wasn't going to say this, but after listening to Dr. Lawless, I almost think we have to do a resolution saying we won't do it. Because people will have heard what he said. He teaches it. We do not teach it in K-12. We don't teach it here in Corona Norco. So that's just where I'm at. But with what that means in a resolution, that we will not be discriminatory, that we will not promote racism, that we will not undermine somebody because they're black, white, yellow, whatever they are. That is not who we are. That is not who we want to be. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know where my fellow board members lie on it, but the part of CRT that is racist, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Thank you.
Ms. Marroquin?
Just what you said, John, is exactly how I believe too. We are a K through 12 public entity here trying to serve our students. And if we don't understand the CRT and we can't come up with something that's factual and something that is hard set, we can't expect the teachers to do it. We can't expect the kids to understand it. So if we're going to have PDA later on in the year or sometime in the future, then so be it. But for right now, we're not ready to take that giant step into this. So again, I agree with Sean. I don't want to have anything to do with this racial discrimination. It has to stop.
Yeah, John and Elizabeth, I do agree. I do not like the divisiveness and the language of CRT. I think one of the issues that we have are definitions, and I think it has been discussed. And we had this meeting of equity, and I think we all I went into it open-minded, like, okay, the equity, everything that you kind of talked about within this district. And all the emails that we got where you guys are trying to do this, which to me was the farthest thing for, I brought up the example of inequity in my area with Temescal Valley having to drive an hour to get to a high school. And so when I think of equity, that's what I think. So I think, having said all this, I whether a resolution is done or not, or whatever we do, we have to have clear definitions. We have to make sure that the community understands what we're talking about. We're on the same page with this. I know we have an equity policy. Mr. Carter read, a portion of it, but I want something concise with the definition that everybody knows what we're talking about, so we have transparency in it. I don't know. That's Mary.
I don't like being compared to a university over and over. We are a K-12. We are not a university. We don't teach the same thing. And I had to say that because, what somebody teaches at a university, fine. But we are a K-12, and we need to stick to what we need to teach to our students here.
Mr. President?
Dr. Lawless?
I just wanted to clarify. I'm not saying we should teach it to K-12 kids. It's a tool for adults. It's a tool for those students who are adults who would like to become teachers. You can go to university programs and you'll probably see CRT all over the place because it's a tool. We don't teach it to high school kids or to elementary. I just wanted to clarify that. But I want to be transparent too because I don't want to sell out. We cover all of those at the university level because these teachers will go in the K-12 world. So we want them to have that tool to be able to sort out. Again, you don't want racial division, but it's right there. When you look at the achievement gap, you see whether we like it or not, students from different races got divided. So with the tool of critical race theory, then you ask the question, why? Is it the fault of the students or is it the fault of the school? Maybe the school is the barrier. Maybe we're not providing good experiences to all kids. That's why all this achievement gap is pestering us for years, for the last 10 to 15 years. Because of those categories of difference, we want to achieve, we want everybody to have the opportunities to achieve. And that's, if I have the theory of CRT and I'm a teacher, different groupings, I'm looking at them on what way I can help this different group of kids to be able to have the proper opportunities to succeed. Then that's not divisive. That's being helpful and being constructive for all kids, white, black, brown, yellow. That's CRT.
We are a school board for K through 12. We are not a school board for university. So I feel that what we talk about here, we need to be just tunneling into what we are going to be teaching our kids K through 12, not the university. When the kids get to university, then they will learn what they're going to learn.
And they will be of age to make that their decisions, not so you're really making my case for I think not just for me, that I really want us to move forward and do something. For one thing, we've been through the last 15 months of hell for everyone. It's been awful. You know, these stupid masks. You know, you don't have to clap out the hall, just listen. The stupid barriers we've had. All the things that all of us have been through have been incredible. And I know you, Dr. B, you said CRT has been around since the 70s. Well, to all of us, it's within the last 6 months, for most of us. You know, I've done a lot of research, and a lot of it's, not a lot of it, there are portions of it that are ugly, that are nasty, that are, quite frankly, totally inappropriate. I don't care what color your skin are, somebody's getting messed over. And it's not teaching the way we want our kids to be taught. So I'm just going to throw it out there now, and but I'd like us to do a resolution. Go ahead.
I agree with you. One other thing is that CRT is one tool. There are many tools in our toolbox to assess what we're doing in the classroom. And so we got to look at it from that stance. We just can't use one wrench. We can't use one hammer. We have many tools that we can use to help our students succeed. So we got to think about that. So I will second the idea of doing a resolution.
Any other discussion? Okay, so it's
I do want to go a little more. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
And Dr. B, you were hitting upon it. We do offer so much in our district. Mary and I were talking, I think yesterday, just about all the different wonderful programs, and you know, now we're getting back into it. You know, you mentioned Norco Ag, Santiago, the band, and the list. I'm drawing an absolute blank now, so anybody want to kick in, please do. CTE, and we thank you, and we've done so much. Dr. Boster's back there. She has done so much in that area. This is who we are as a district in figuring out where that child can best succeed. So I don't care where you live. If you live in Eastvale and you want your child, or your child is really an interest in auto mechanics, then we're going to suggest you go over to Corona High, because that's going to be the best course for your child. And let's face it, auto mechanics is way different than it was 20 years ago, where, you know, dad lifted the hood and jumped in. Now you have to have computer knowledge, you have to have science and math. So all those educational pieces go into, and yes, I'm on my soapbox now, but we have great programs. No offense, but maybe we need to do a better job at highlighting some of those. That's what we need to be pushing, the greatness of this district and the diversity in what we offer to our students and families.
Yeah. So did you want to? Yes. Okay, so do I have a motion? Okay, so
yeah.
Wait.
No action. Okay.
So
can we put on for? Can I make a motion at all? I can't even do that.
discussion.
So I would like to suggest that our next meeting, okay, that we put on a resolution stating that we are not using CRT. Does that work for you, Norma? Okay, thank you.
Dr. Lawless?
Well, with that suggestion, my corollary suggestion is that we need to really have a good definition and a good understanding of its tenets. So we just don't go with our own personal emotion. We need to be knowledgeable of what we're going to do. When you talk about you do research, we do respect. I do research too, but not all research are the same, right? And so I wish that to have a real well-informed decision on this one, we need to provide almost a preamble of what it is and what we believe in. Because all of those talks about diversity and program that we're doing so good in this district because we honor diversity. We have avid program. We make sure that our Latino kids are getting the opportunities on those different areas of focus. So unconsciously, because we honor diversity, we honor inclusion, this is what Corona Norco is all about. That's our strength, because we have diverse programs for all kinds of kids. Call it CRT, call it intuition, but I'm proud to say that my students are probably having those in mind when they work with kids. They motivate every kid. They create programs to meet everybody's need, regardless of who they are.
All right, thank you. So we have the information for next meeting, correct?
We will get some information and provide it to you for the next meeting.
Okay.
I think we do need to do some research, and because what we don't want to do, and I want to be clear about that, we don't want to put a cap or limit the programs that we have here, because we have phenomenal programs. So I just want to make sure, because there's some CRT labels out there that, as I said earlier, that take shots at programs such as restorative practices. They take shots at diversity. They take shots at equity. We personally, that we need to protect. That I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. Where we are at as a district, we need to continue to protect those programs and continue, and because that's where we're all about. And anyhow, so which is our LCAP for us, or it's our strategic plan that we're taking action tonight.
So we can be equitable. We could be have equity without CRT, correct?
Absolutely, equity and
without
equality
CRT,
too.
Without CRT.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we don't need CRT to be mentioned there, but we cannot have equity without talking about race. We cannot, because because of these categories of differences. Those categories include race. We have, and our achievement gap shows it very clearly. There is those differences in terms of performance. How can you talk about, how do you define equity? Equity is, I'll mention race, okay? White, Asian on top, and Latinos and African Americans at the bottom. That's what we call achievement gap. That's racial inequity in terms of test scores. And we want to address that. We want to make sure that the Latinos and the African kids will be given the opportunities, and the school district will facilitate that. That's why we have the best program, so they can go up, right? So
I think we're saying the same thing, Dr. Lawless. Our strategic plan addresses those pieces. As I said earlier, mandated by the federal and state is we do need to look at those categories. We do need to look at those subgroups. Those things don't change. That's interwoven in everything that we do in our LCAP and in our strategic plan. So that doesn't change. And and for clarification purposes, what I'm hearing from the board is okay, we have that. But if we are teaching CRT that focuses on racism and groups that have traditionally been subjected to racism, and really some deep stuff, that belongs more at the university level. So we don't do it here so much. That's what I'm hearing from the board. And we don't want to create divisiveness, in other words, in what we do. We want to continually bring people together. That's what we're all about.
Okay, well, where do you foresee CRT being taught in this in our district? Where do you see that? Why are we so concerned about it? Where do you see that?
I don't.
I know. That's why when we're talking about CRT curriculum for instruction, where is that? Where's that going to be happening?
Yeah.
It's a mindset. It's a tool.
Okay. Well, good conversation. We will move on now to item 17E, correct? Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, President Pollock. For consideration this evening, there's a number of items, 8 to be exact, that require action by the board. They all are related to, 7 of them are related to credentialing. This gets us in a position for our upcoming school year to make sure all of our teaching assignments are properly credentialed. The first is the district plan for committee on assignment. We would ask that you approve this plan, which allows for 2 teacher representatives and 2 administrators, HR administrators, to approve limited teaching assignments in elective courses for teachers that have a variety of credentials. So we've had the committee on assignment the past number of years. So every year it needs to be renewed. So that's the first one.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay, do I have a motion and a second to accept this? All in favor? Those opposed? Okay, 5-0 passes. Okay, next,
Yes.
17C, or F, I'm sorry.
F, yes. The next item is a credential waiver. We'd ask you to approve these for our 2 ROTC teachers. It's a waiver of the English language proficiency certification so that they can teach in those 2 programs for this upcoming school year.
All right. Any? So moved. Okay, all in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, 17G.
Yes, so the next one is for teachers that are have a single subject credential. We have one over at Citrus Hills to teach in another subject area for which she holds coursework. Specifically, it's a physical science teacher over at Citrus Hills. So we'd ask for that approval tonight.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second? Okay.
Okay.
Elizabeth and Mary, all in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Okay, passes 5-0.
Okay.
All right.
And this is a similar resolution as for high school teachers this time to teach a single course outside of their credential area, as long as they hold at least 18 semester hours of coursework or 9 semester hours of upper division coursework. And there are 7 teachers at 3 at Centennial, 1 at Corona High School, 2 at Norco, and 1 at Roosevelt.
Okay.
On that action.
I'll second. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, passes 5-0. Okay, next.
All right, the next one is for 4 of our TSAs to provide professional development to teachers in the area of educational technology. And they all qualify for this based on past experience or coursework they have taken. But it does require action by the board to allow them to provide that professional development.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Second? Mary? Okay. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Passes 5-0.
Okay.
Next.
The next one is for elementary or multiple subject teachers. We have 2 of them who teach in departmentalized settings at the intermediate setting. So again, they have to have a certain number of required units in that subject area. So there are 2 of those we'd ask you to approve.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Okay. Second. I'll second. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Passes 5-0.
Very good.
Okay. Next.
Yes, so item K, this is our annual declaration of need, and based on our projections of where we may need to do in the upcoming school year, do any emergency hiring in the areas of single subject areas, special education. So we'd ask for your approval of that declaration that we need from the CTC in order to do that throughout the year.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second? So moved. Okay, Mr. Z, I'll second. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? Okay, passes 5-0.
And then the final item for action tonight on the agenda is an extension. If you recall, when we were coming back to school during the pandemic, we asked for a temporary increase in our certificated sub rates in order to make sure that we had enough subs to cover our classes, and also in our paraeducator substitute rate. We're asking for that extension that ends this month. We're asking to extend it through December. It's been very successful in helping us cover coursework, and as we continue with our boost program and our intercessions for our year-round schools, we want to maintain and make sure that we have the subs needed to do that. So this, by your action tonight, this would just extend those increases to the sub rates through December.
Wait, hold on. I do have a question. Do we think that's out far enough?
I believe so. I think we'll know by December pretty clearly what our pattern is in terms of subbing. I think that it's a safe distance out, and we can evaluate through the fall
and redo it.
Yeah.
If we okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Do I have a motion and a second? Okay, Lisa? Second. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right. On to 18, there is no unfinished business in closed session, so we'll move on to adjournment. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn? Mary, in a second? I'll second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries, and we will end the meeting at 10:48. Thank you, everyone.